Hello dear viewers, support me by subscribing to my channel and share my video if you like it, and also make sure you comment your thoughts. Now let's start the video. Harry and Logan arrived at Harry's house. Then he heard, "Is that you, Harry? You're missing dinner from Bruce?" Harry walked to the dining room. "Sorry for being late. I brought a friend. Is there going to be enough?" "I already ate," Logan said, following Harry in. "James?" Steve asked, suddenly looking at Logan. "Name's Logan. Do I know you?" Logan asked. "I'm sure it's you. How are you here?" Steve asked, getting up. "I don't know. How are you?" Logan asked, confused, but suspecting Steve knew him from somewhere. "Hold on, guys. Let's not ruin Bruce's dinner," Harry said, looking at Bruce. "There's more than enough if you want some," Bruce said, getting up. "I'll go get you a plate. Just leave what you can't finish." "You too, Harry. Sit down." "Thanks," Logan said roughly. "Thank you," Harry called after him and sat down, indicating Clint's seat to Logan. He hardly ate at the house if he could have his wife's cooking. Then he turned to Logan and said, "Now I know where I recognized you from. You were in Steve's memories." "Exactly," Steve exclaimed. "That explains it then. Logan lost some memories, so he won't remember you, Steve. I'm going to see if I can help him a bit," Harry said. "I'm sorry, I didn't know," Steve said. "It's okay. I'll live," Logan said. "Whether I want to or not," he finished in his head. Bruce brought them both a plate of curry. "I love curry," Harry said, and started digging in. "So what happened to you?" Natasha asked. "Got stuck doing experiments with Tony again." "Nah, he figured it out. I just forgot to help the professor with that possessed guy, so I quickly went and took care of that," Harry said nonchalantly. "More like destroyed the bastard," Logan said with an approving smile. "You went on another mission without me?" Natasha asked dangerously. "I was perfectly safe," Harry calmed her down. "Going up against the second strongest telepath in the multiverse," Logan scoffed. "You aren't helping," Harry stage whispered to Logan. "I'm not trying, but to be fair, it looked like he had it under control the whole time." Logan relented. "What did you get up to today?" "We didn't see you around much," Bruce asked. "Let's see. We worked on the island, making the enclosures. We healed a bunch of children. We tracked down Deadpool. We rescued the X-Men. I put the Institute under Fidelius. I gave Deadpool his face back. I went to Tony's where he showed me his success on both projects, and I destroyed an ancient fear demon." Harry summed up. Then he continued eating. The rest of the table just stared at him. "I was there for most of it," Natasha confirmed. "Why did you bring Wolverine with you?" "New drinking buddy. Steve doesn't like hanging anymore. Something about too much alcohol. Like there is such a thing," Harry scoffed. To be fair, Harry only drank every now and then. Sometimes he wasn't in the mood and preferred tea or coffee, but when he was, he went all out. He was learning how to make cocktails and other mixes. His reason that if he was to be a bartender, he'd needed to be able to make the drinks. He'd even expanded his choices so he could experiment. "Sounds reasonable," Natasha said with a shrug. "Just don't kill him with alcohol poisoning. There are people who would be annoyed that you killed an immortal with alcohol." "Immortal?" Steve asked. "Or close to it. His mutation makes him immune to aging and regenerates any wound. I don't know what else you would call it," Natasha said offhandedly. "That explains why you look the same. We fought in World War II together with the Howling Commandos. You and your brother," he finished. "Brother?" Logan asked. "Victor Creed," Steve confirmed. "Why does that name sound familiar?" Logan asked. "Sabretooth," supplied Natasha. "Really?" Logan asked with a dangerous look. "Sorry," Natasha said unrepentantly. "No wonder he hates me," Logan said, thinking about it. Then he shrugged. "I feel the same." They finished dinner, with the rest asking questions about Harry's day. Harry was excited about Tony's project soon becoming a reality, after all the extra planning that still needed to be made anyway. This brought up the subject of the beach house, which went back to the animals Harry wished to house there. Bruce and Sif would be attempting to capture a mated pair of unicorns the next day. This got Logan's attention. "Unicorns?" he asked. "We will be going to the realm of Alfheim tomorrow to scout the area. When we have acquired their trail, we hope to track them down and capture them for Harry's enclosures. Next, we'll be looking for death mares in Vanaheim," Sif supplied. "Harry calls them the Strahls," skeletal-looking reptilian horses with wings. They are carnivorous, so we'll be starting a population of rabbits in another enclosure or two to feed them," Bruce said. "You're starting a magical zoo?" Logan asked. "We need the magical ingredients," Harry said. "So a magical slaughterhouse?" Logan corrected. "No, we don't intend to kill them needlessly. If at all possible, we will save them pain and discomfort and release them back onto the compound good as new," Harry said. "Good. I don't like animals being handled inhumanely," Logan grunted. "If you want, you can join them on the trip. I hear you are a good tracker," Harry offered. "I'll think about it," Logan said. "It does sound like fun though," he added. After dinner was completed, Logan did eat his whole plate happily. They all went for a couple of drinks. Logan scoffed at the idea of getting drunk. He'd never been able to achieve the feat, and he tried. Then he was introduced to fire whiskey. It was love at first taste. Harry had a feeling that his new drinking buddy would pull him to the bar more often than he'd like. Fortunately, if it became too often, he could simply hand him off to Steve. They were connecting really quickly, despite their character differences. Apparently, Logan still had a lot of the same mannerisms, and it resonated with Steve, who loved seeing someone from the old days. They soon convinced Harry to go fetch his pensieve, Logan for the opportunity to learn about himself, and Steve for the possibility of helping an old friend and comrade. Steve showed him one of the better memories, where Logan's actions saved a commando's life. In the process, discovering that Logan had been a mutant even then, he'd saved the commando at the cost of being hit instead, but healed too quickly for someone to notice the wound. While they were in the memory, a though occurred to Harry and he cast his Patronus again. "What's that?" Natasha asked. Harry looked at her and saw Bruce and Sif were also following the creature. "You can all see it?" Harry asked. "Yes. What is it?" Bruce replied, noticing Sif looking at it as well. "It is a Patronus. Only magical people can see it though, or only they should be able to anyway," Harry said. "Did you accidentally make us magical?" Natasha asked. She was reaching out to the Patronus, who walked closer for her to inspect. She tried touching it, but her hand passed through, leaving her hand feeling slightly warm. "I doubt it. Maybe it's the amount of magical alcohol, or the magic in the house's protections," Harry mused. "Maybe it's the fact that magical people don't exist in our world. Maybe only our enhanced can see them. It is possible that whatever caused magical people to exist in your world made mutants and super-powered people on our side," Bruce theorized. "That actually makes a weird kind of sense. Power seeks a balance and all that. If there's a need, it will find a way out. In my world, those born without magic in magical families could see a Patronus too," Harry theorized too. "Either way, we have to test this. Which one of you wants to try the carpet?" Harry asked of Bruce and Natasha. "Sorry, Harry. I already tried it," Bruce said apologetically. "It didn't do a thing." "Damn," Harry swore. "That would have been so cool." "Don't worry, Harry. At least we found out that some things might work." Natasha put a hand on his knee, instantly cheering him up a bit. "You must be magical. You can make me feel better with a couple of words and a touch." Harry smiled at her. "That's a different kind of magic, Harry," Sif said from her chair. "Anybody has that sort of magic as long as you allow the connection. And you, Missy, are getting wiser every day," Harry said, looking at Sif with a genuine smile. "I blame you," Sif replied with a smile of her own. Bruce was rubbing off on her. His wit seemed to be something she appreciated. "Nah, that's all you," Harry replied. Just then the other two exited the memory. Logan was holding his head with one hand. "I'm actually remembering some things. It's like the memories are there, but need something to connect with," he groaned, before smirking. "I like this. Alcohol and remembering. Works for me. Scientifically speaking, if your neural pathways were somehow interrupted or broken, when you regenerate, they may regrow, but not necessarily activate. So when you see a memory and your brain tries to process them and store them in the same way or location it had before, it opens the pathways again," Bruce suggested. "So you're saying my memories are there, just not active. I need to remember things by experiencing them. What's the point in that?" Logan asked. "If, like someone with amnesia, you suddenly remember parts of your memories, chances improve for you to regain all of them. The mind is a complicated machine and we don't understand all of it, but that much is certain. Get some memories back and you might unlock them all," Bruce said confidently. "That makes some sense, I suppose." He looked up at Harry with a smirk. "This what you had in mind?" Nope, I was going to do magic, but if this works for you, let's try it first and then we can decide to try something else later if it's necessary. I like seeing Steve so happy and think you'll fit right in if you're interested in staying a while. Harry offered. Steve, you said something about going with Sif and Bruce? Yes, I was thinking of joining them. I wouldn't mind another soldier at my back. Steve said with a smile at Logan. Logan grabbed his head again. What, another memory? Steve asked. No, you're just so cheesy, Logan replied with a sudden smile. I suppose I can live with that. Steve, Sif and Bruce all laughed at that. Natasha proposed a toast to good memories and they all got down to the serious business of drinking. The following day, Harry woke up next to Natasha again. She had been spending more and more time in his room, not that he was complaining. He decided to go down and help Bruce with breakfast, so slipped from the covers and then went downstairs. Just as he reached the bottom, he saw Bruce sneaking from Sif's room. When he spotted Harry, he froze, the look of a deer caught in the headlights on his face. Then he shook himself and said, not one word about this. He looked both scared and annoyed now. He couldn't even get angry at Harry and unleashed the other guy. They'd simply laugh about this at his expense. Done, Harry said easily. You go clean up, I'll start breakfast. There was a moment and then, thanks. 10 minutes later, Bruce joined him and they worked together on the food until Sif joined them, early as usual. Good morning, she said happily. Morning, Harry said with a smile. Morning, Bruce said kind of nervously. Are you suddenly scared of me? Sif asked with a smirk. You weren't scared last night. No, I'm just worried that I took advantage, Bruce said, having looked at Harry and wishing they were alone. Harry wasn't leaving. This was too much fun. Oh, please! I took you to my chambers, not the other way around, remember? Sif scoffed, then stilled. Unless you are regretting it? She asked hesitantly. No, Bruce vehemently denied. I'm just not comfortable talking about this in front of Harry, he explained. He is the head of the house, and Odin has referred my safety and health to him. He should know what is happening, or my honor would be tarnished. Sif said. She then looked at Harry. Do you disapprove of our conduct, my lord? Knowing this was somehow formal, he did not object to the title. I do not. Bruce is a good man. He will not bring shame to you. I believe it is a match well made, and his power is such that he might protect you, where all others may fail. Thank you, my lord. Thank you for approving, Sif said. Do you accept responsibility for her happiness, while you explore the possibilities of your relationship? Harry asked of Bruce. Bruce hesitated, then, yes, he said sincerely. Know this. If you hurt her, it will be my responsibility to defend her honor, so be open and speak honestly. If either of you hesitate to communicate properly, it can only lead to unhappiness. Harry finished. Now that the formalities are out of the way, have fun. It's only ever once the beginning and that's where most of the fun starts. He grinned. Just be safe, he said looking at Bruce. Of course we're safe, we're in your protected house, Sif said. He means contraceptives, to make sure you don't end up pregnant, Bruce said with a furious blush. I am not receptive at this stage, Sif said. She did not elaborate. Harry was happy for it. Just speak to Natasha in private about it at some point. She'll tell you of everything you might need to know. Harry informed her. People on Midgard aren't all that open about sexual matters. It's considered private. I know where babies come from, Harry. Sif smiled. Do you know what people on Midgard do to prevent unwanted pregnancies? Harry countered. I suppose I could discuss it with her, Sif replied, thoughtfully. Please do. Now let's stop talking about this before poor Bruce dies of embarrassment. Harry smirked, looking at the man in question. Bruce was trying to act like he didn't hear them and just added more bacon to the griddle. Steve joined them next, looking a little worse for wear. Morning, he said, then looked up when he saw Harry. Could you do something? My head is killing me. Harry chuckled and cast a spell getting rid of the after effects of the alcohol. Just remember to get plenty of water for the dehydration. Yes, I know. We've been through this a couple of times now. Thanks, by the way, Steve said, feeling almost at 100% again. The people stirring must have woken Logan, because he grumbled as he walked in. Good morning, Logan, Steve said happily. What's so good about it? Logan said grumpily. If you want, Harry could fix the hangover, Steve offered. No, I'll wear it like a badge of honor. It's something I've never been able to experience. Makes me feel more human. What do normal people do for hangovers? He asked. Painkillers, plenty of water, more rest, greasy food, or hair of the dog, Harry provided. More drink sounds stupid now that I know what a hangover feels like, Logan muttered. Suit yourself, Harry said and left the room to go wake up Natasha. Have some coffee. That sometimes helps, even if it's also counterintuitive. Bruce supplied and handed him a cup, pointing at the coffee machine. Soon everyone was gathered and decided to skip training for the day, since everyone had something to do. Steve and Logan were joining Sif and Bruce for their first capture mission, shrinking and expanding cage in hand. Sif could activate the enchantments. Harry and Natasha were off to Tony's place to pick up Tony and the building supplies. When they got there, he was standing with Pepper. She smiled at Natasha and they hugged. Glad you could come. Without you, Harry will just get angry at Tony when he decides to build secret basements and stuff, Natasha said. Don't mock the man cave. Every self-respecting man owns one at some point, Tony argued. Apparently he had been planning on changes. You know what? That lab we have in the plans is starting to look better as a place for my personal gym. Pepper threatened sweetly. I'll be good, Tony said immediately. Everybody ready? You know it's still a couple of hours before sunrise there, right? Harry asked as he shrunk the supplies and deposited them in his bag along with the devices Tony had ready for him. Make a stop at the safe site. Our personal water tank is ready for pickup. This is one for us, so no extra parts needed. The IN is also already set up here. All we need is power and we're online, Tony said. Harry shrugged and transported them to the secure site. While Harry was shrinking the tank, Tony quickly picked up 4 short, staff-like items and put them in a pocket. When Harry looked at him, he winked. Harry let it go. He then transported them to New Atlantis. They had a lot to do today. Once Harry created some light for them and conjured a table, Pepper took out the plans and they started discussing exactly where the houses would be and how deep they'd have to dig. Bedrock would be preferable, but if that was too deep, Harry assured them he could ensure the houses didn't sink or shift with the sand. He soon had the cement mixed and the ground excavated, with molds for the cement in place. Harry had simply transfigured the sand into rock. Even if it was temporary, it would last long enough for the cement to set some. Harry moved the cement into place for the first foundation, and was about to move on to the next, when Tony started moving around the edges, placing the rods into the sand at the corners of the foundation. What's that? Harry asked. This is a rune-induced field generator. The bars work together to apply a specific kind of magic in a specified area. You cast something on one of them and add enough power. The runes do the rest. In this case, it will work on your time dilation charm. Basically, you make time pass for the cement to settle and then you continue to build. Each time you put down the layers you need and activate the charms. That's just under 6 days per minute, under the charm you have set up at the distillery. Tony finished proudly. This is going to make things so much quicker, Pepper said. Can you do that? She asked Harry. Let's see, shall we? Harry said as he lifted his hand and concentrated on one of the bars. A minute later, Harry dropped the charm. It was much easier than concentrating on the dimensions of the field he wanted. Did it work? Harry asked to Tony, who was leaning down to touch the cement. Instead of answering, Tony got up and stepped onto the cement. Solid as a rock, he exclaimed. From there they decided to focus on one building at a time. They weren't going for too big since Harry would be expanding them anyway. If this was going to be a magical getaway for them, Harry would bring the magic. Having taken this into consideration, they decided to go for 2 stories and none of the interior was done besides the floors. Once the expansion was done, they'd start on the insides. Harry would need to open spaces for piping and ducting, but that would be quick and easy considering what he could do. About lunchtime, Malibu time, Tony had hooked up the first ever IRDR. The first house was almost complete, and a carpet appeared with a smiling Bruce, Sif, and Steve. Logan looked smug. They all got on the carpet and flew to the enclosures. Harry had been given the instructions on how to set up the enclosure. Fields, sunshine, trees, grass, and bushes. A stream would be put in later, using Tony's newest gadget to filter the water and cycle it, keeping it topped up automatically with a hidden valve system. When they arrived at the enclosure, everybody disembarked and Sif enlarged the cage. 2 pure white unicorns were staying as far away from the humans as possible. Logan spoke up. They were being hunted by other predators. Strange things looked like a cross between a lion and a goat with a snake for a tail. Sounds like a chimera, probably their natural predators, Harry said. "Fox," he called. The phoenix appeared and landed on Harry's shoulder. "We need them calm. They were being hunted. The enclosure there is a safe space, where they will be cared for," Harry said, pointing. The phoenix's mere presence already seemed to calm the animals. Harry moved in slowly. The male moved in front of its partner protectively, but smelled Harry's offered hand. "We're not going to hurt you. This will be where you sleep," Harry said, pointing at the enclosure, not knowing if the creature understood, but hoping so anyway. "If you want, you can roam the island and nobody will hunt you again." Surprising Harry, Logan walked right up to the beast and stroked its neck. "He doesn't understand you, but if the door is open, he'll know. The mare is pregnant, so they'll want privacy for a while. But once the foal is born, they will come out to explore with it. We might need to consider rescuing more of them. The predators in the area are overpopulated. We could probably help with that too." "You sure seem to understand them well," Harry said, impressed. "It's an animal thing. He understands body language, posture and movement. Confidence is key to working with any animal," Logan explained. "Can you look after them until the foal is born? I'll give you a way to get here and everything. I'd just rather not spook them while they settle in," Harry asked. "I can even pay you." "I don't mind. I get along with nature. There's a reason they call me feral," Logan smirked. "Thank you, Logan. If you're as good with animals as you say, I might have a job for you. You know what we intend to do here. This is both a sanctuary and a place where magical animals will be brought together. Those that can live in harmony on the island with us will be free to roam. For the others, we'll be creating specialized enclosures," Harry said. "You mentioned something like that," Logan said. "I'll think about it, okay? Provided there's access to that bar of yours." "That's all that I ask, and you already have access. I'll set you up with a two-way port key too," Harry confirmed. Never had he thought he'd find a man with a connection to animals as strong as Hagrid's. "I stayed at the school to help train the kids, and as protection, now that they are safe, they won't need me as much. I was getting tired of just sitting on my ass anyway," Logan smirked. "I'll give it a trial run so long as I can get where I need to go. I'll set up port keys for you to the house, the island and the institute. Just no unauthorized visitors, okay?" Harry asked. "Sure thing, but once this place is up and running, I'd like to bring the kids here for a field trip. They'd get a kick out of it." Logan smiled, shaking Harry's hand. "That sounds good to me," Harry said. Harry completed the house's exteriors the next day and started working on the internal designs. That was a lot more effort than the exteriors and would probably take a week at the least. The expansions didn't take too long, but Pepper had specific sized interiors in mind for what the architects came up with. The week was spent working on that and helping Tony plan for the rollout of the first deliveries of perpetual motion generators, PMG, water production tanks, WPT, and instant remote data relays, IRDR. They were starting in Africa. There were a lot of people in need of basic necessities. Of course, there had to be a press conference. It was going to be Harry's first ever public appearance as himself. Fury had not been happy, but he couldn't deny that what they were doing was going to help the world in a big way. Harry always wanted to help, and pressing for him to remain anonymous was only going to damage his efforts. Fury had asked Clint to start spending more time with Harry. He was a resource they could not afford to ever lose. He wasn't a bodyguard per se, but he was told that it was his top priority to ensure Harry's safety. Laura and the kids could not be happier. They started coming to the house, and Laura would help Bruce in the kitchen. The kids would sometimes be allowed in the room of requirements. Harry would make it into a water park or a theme park, with properly animated characters to add to the effect. Hundreds of people would be about, having fun and adding to the atmosphere. To their regret, sometimes Harry would have it turn into a classroom for them as well, with teachers and other kids to encourage them to concentrate or play with. Harry planned on building them their own room back home, under protection so only Laura could activate it, but kept putting it off. He loved children around and every member of the team treated them like family. Bruce was especially happy to have children around. Hulk would sometimes also join them in their play. He was quite gentle with them, as the big man loved children too, especially those who didn't fear him. Tony had insisted that Harry be the majority shareholder of the devices, claiming that his board would otherwise press for more profit. So Harry was made majority shareholder and sold only 10% of the shares to Stark Industries once they went public. Secretly, Stark himself owned another 20% of the shares, not allowing Stark Industries to purchase any more. Fury had also acquired 10%, but intended the profits to help the relief efforts. The day after the first deliveries and installations started being made, and they went public, there was a call for the expected press conference. They put it off for a couple of days, so that the hype could build. Coverage on the TV was showing impoverished settlements bringing water containers to a tap with crystal clear water coming out. Families celebrating and parties happening right by the distribution centers. Town leaders were put in charge to ensure everybody got a chance. They were warned that tampering would end up stopping the devices from functioning, and soon every distribution center had militia set up to protect their valuable resources. Reporters were going on about clean energy and people no longer having to fear crops dying. Free communications were being made available to the people, and the world grew just a little bit smaller as information became available to everyone within reach. The day of the press conference arrived. Tony walked out of Stark Industries HQ to where the hundreds of reporters had gathered, Harry following behind him in a tailored suit. Tony stepped up to the mic and said, "Hello, to everybody of the world." There was a roar of shouts as everybody started asking questions, but Tony held up his hand and waited for silence. "This is not a Q&A. We'll be making a statement." When everybody had settled down, he continued, "My associate Harry Potter of Potter Innovations and I have striven to start helping the world with our inventions. We are not trying to take business away from anyone. We are simply helping those who cannot help themselves. The steps we have taken in Africa are only the first steps in our goal to rid the world of hunger and thirst for both food and water, and knowledge. We believe electricity, water, and communications to be the first step towards a better tomorrow. Our goals are much greater though. Potter Innovations is constantly looking for better ways to help people, as is their company mandate. They will not be taking requests, but will continue to send help to countries in need. With the help of Stark Industries, they will also be focusing on better medicines. Along with Stark Industries, they are planning expansion into transport and commerce. The world will, in the coming years, enter a golden era, where people are joined in the bounty of the world rather than divided by greed. And we owe all of this to Harry Potter and his drive for bettering the world for those that cannot fend for themselves or whose circumstances never allowed them to thrive. He is a great man, and I am proud to call him a friend." He looked at Harry with a smile, then turned back to the people. "I give you Harry Potter, CEO and founder of Potter Innovations." There was applause then as the people waited for Harry to step up to the mic. Harry had never really gotten over his fright of public speaking. It wasn't crippling, but knowing what he said now will be seen all over the world added a pressure he hadn't felt before. There were some chuckles and that somehow helped. "Thank you, Tony. I never was one for the limelight, but I was told it would be better to speak now before people started banging down my doors wanting to speak to me." There were some more chuckles and Harry continued, "When I started my company, it was so that I could start helping people with my knowledge. Through my years of study and experience, I have come up with a couple of ideas that I thought might be useful to people. Tony was a big part of seeing its potential and dragged me into making it bigger than I had hoped for. As you all know, he's a hero. But when I got to know him, I realized he's more than just the Iron Man. He's also a true hero in his desire to better the world. Our plans for the future grew steadily, to the point where we are now even considering steps beyond saving the people of Earth, but also the planet itself from the damage we as humans have caused. I cannot go into details, but let me say this. The future looks bright," Harry said. "Thank you," he finished. There was a rousing applause, and then people started screaming questions. Tony stepped up to the mic. "Our goal today was to inform you of our motivations and plans for the future. Any queries or questions may be directed to my public relations department. Thank you." Then they left into the building. They planned on a vacation next. Harry was almost done with the guest house. Both of their houses had guest rooms and everything was furnished, but they liked their privacy too. Harry had plans to build Bruce his own house too, and allowing him to plan its interior, but that was a surprise. As the world celebrated, militant groups in Africa started planning on taking away these new devices from those it was supplied to. It had been a couple of months and the Avengers, especially Ghost and Iron Man, had made many forays into Africa, South America and Asia when terrorists and militant groups started attacking the distribution centers for fear of losing control of their territories. The message had been clear. The distribution centers were under Avenger protection. The local populations had all worked together to protect their resources. Some had built walls while others simply buried and hid theirs. As the resources became known, communities started converging on the sites and set up bigger towns and communities. Wherever a new distribution center was set up, hope bloomed and people started defending themselves and what they had. Harry didn't like it when he had heard of people dying to defend the resources, so he took things into his own hands. It had taken a while, but it was later found out that the leaders of said terrorist organizations and militant factions started turning up dead, some with a stuffed unicorn doll on their decapitated bodies. Harry had not commented. It's not like they could prove he had given Wade those port keys. Fury knew, of course, but said nothing. Harry had paid Wade in cash. He was doing reasonably well for himself these days. Meanwhile, the island started flourishing with life. Something about the magical creatures they were bringing in made life seem to want to bloom there. Harry had ended up building Logan a cabin in the dead center of one of the most wooded areas. Every convenience he could give was there, and Logan loved the sounds of nature all around. It had become his home. He would care for the creatures and requested supplies when necessary, but he was trying to get everything to live in balance. So far he'd done an admirable job. The island now had 4 rivers that crisscrossed through the growth and rolled all the way into the ocean. The reservoir Harry had planned was turned into an expanded dam, which was replenished with many of Tony's water runes from a nearby submerged intake. Tony had tried an experiment with Harry. He had placed new rods, ones that focused on the expansion charms Harry used, and placed them around a piece of wooded area. What they achieved was to increase said area into 10 times its original size, the plants having shifted away from each other to accommodate the expansion inside the location. Since then they'd expanded larger portions until the island itself could fit a small city. Logan had been impressed and started setting up some of the animals in areas that suited their needs, with Harry's help. Once the guest house had been built, Harry had ended up building 2 more. One for Bruce to use as his own and the other for the other Avengers and their guests. There was also a hot spring. Tony had worked out a system that kept the water clean and warm using runes to heat the water and cycling it so the water always moved slightly. And then there was Tony's favorite area. It was a large swimming pool. It was built in a circle around a circular central bar, with stools all around and a walkway to cross if you didn't want to get wet. The pool was lit from underneath and the water automatically circled. He could often be found just relaxing in the water, in an inflatable chair, as it slowly flowed around the pool, drink in hand. Harry had even added a charm on the entire living area and beach to not require sun protection, for the skin at least. Harry was in his lab working on one of his projects when he got a call. "Hello, Pepper. How are things?" "Hi, Harry. To be honest, things aren't great," Pepper said. "Why, what's going on?" Harry asked, stopping his work. "Should I come over?" "No, it's just," she stopped, thinking of how to say it. "Well, have you noticed anything strange about Tony recently?" "It's Tony. Strange is kind of a given," Harry joked. "Why, what's he done now?" "I don't know, he's been spending more time on his suits, and we were just sleeping when one of the suits walked in on us while he was having a nightmare," Pepper said. "I'm really worried about him." "Damn, I told him to speak to someone about it. I've noticed some strange behavior, especially when New York is mentioned. He changes the subject and rattles on until he leaves the room," Harry said. "What should we do? I know he's been closer to you and Bruce. Couldn't one of you talk to him?" Pepper asked. "Okay, here's what we'll do. I'll come over tomorrow after lunch. I've got an enclosure to finish. We're getting something big in and we need to prepare for it. Once I'm done with that, we'll sit Tony down, force a calming draft down his throat and make him talk while he's capable of handling talking without getting emotions involved," Harry said. "Sound good?" "Yes, thank you. We really need to help him," Pepper said. "We will. Don't worry, Pepper. He's my friend. I'm here to help. Just keep him out of trouble in the meanwhile." Harry finished. "Okay. Bye, Harry. Get some sleep. Natasha complains about you working too hard too, you know. I'll bet she's waiting for you," Pepper said. A small smile on her face. Natasha had told her that she'd been sleeping in Harry's room to keep his own nightmares at bay. "That's a good idea, thanks. Night," Harry said, and hung up. He went to bed and found Natasha already asleep on her side of the bed, arm over his side of the bed. He crawled in, lifted her arm over his chest and smiled when she moved her head onto his shoulder automatically. He'd really fallen for her. He'd had the realization a while back, when he had walked in on her sleeping in his bed after another long day. He'd found himself wanting to say it then, he wanted to say it now. So he whispered it, "I love you," and fell asleep. He never saw her eyes shoot open and look up at him, a small smile on her lips. He never heard her sigh of contentment before she too fell asleep. The next day they were expecting something interesting, something big. It was a dragon from Alfheim. It was smaller than the others in its den and was cast out. Harry had liked that Logan looked for outcasts and misfits. His magical preserve would help them as they helped him, and most of them were happy about the change of scenery. They had yet to take an animal that was at home in its native land. He spent the day making the environment in its cave exactly to spec as Logan had instructed. This beast would eat larger prey, but less often, so it wouldn't need so much upkeep. Once it was settled, Logan would go about what he called orientation, where he would first make sure it knew he was its caretaker, and then he'd slowly introduce them to the island's inhabitants, making sure the animal had no urges to eat the other magical creatures. He'd had massive successes so far. Not all creatures had the intelligence needed, so the violent or carnivorous ones were locked up, but were happy in their enclosures. Those who were intelligent soon found out that there were many others on the island that they lived with and tolerated each other's presence. Most of them still returned to their enclosures to sleep. Harry had found it interesting to watch as Logan brought one of the creatures out for the first time. Some of the other creatures had shown up, as if they knew they were going to meet a new inhabitant. Logan would then allow them to sniff and observe each other looking for hostile tendencies, and when he saw anything of the sort, he'd step in again. The process was apparently repeated often till the creatures realized there was no threat from each other. Once one of a kind of creature had been established, Logan would see if he can find them a mate and then other pairs, if possible. The dragon would have to wait though and get situated, before such a thing could be attempted. Harry finished up the work and waited for Logan to arrive. Natasha had decided to go home ahead of him and make something for when he got home, knowing he had another appointment. Just before 12 p.m. they arrived. Perfect timing. He helped them unload what looked like a cross between a Swedish short-snout dragon and a Chinese fireball dragon. It was still quite large and Logan used whatever knack he had to lead it quite sedately into its new home. Harry followed at a distance. Once he was inside, he was happy to see it had found the nest he had made for it, and was sniffing around it. It apparently found nothing wrong as it decided to climb in and rest, after licking a couple of wounds on its hindquarters. Logan walked back to Harry and pointed at the opening. Harry went out first, and when they got outside, he said, "We found her just in time. She was able to track down some game, and had killed some kind of large deer. The others of her den showed up and started attacking her for her kill. We were able to drive them off with a couple of scratches, and then I helped her into the cage. She's almost lost the will to live. It will take a time to get her back to health, but it's doable." "You're amazing with these creatures, Logan," Harry complimented. "It's my job," he shrugged. "I'll have to feed her a bit extra for a bit, but she'll recover. I'll actually need to start now, as the den took her kill with them. So I got to go," he said as he walked off. Harry shrugged. Logan was never the type to stand around and chat. He looked at the time and decided to leave for lunch. He arrived home and found Natasha in his apartment kitchen, having made some sandwiches. He thanked her and then ate his meal. "There's been an incident. Stark's old bodyguard was caught in an explosion of some sort. He's at the hospital," Natasha said as he finished his food. "What? Why didn't you tell me?" Harry asked, getting up and ready to go. "Because if I did, you'd have skipped lunch. You need the energy. You've been working non-stop for the last couple of weeks. You're at the island, the institute and the distribution centers more often than home. When you are home, you're working in your lab." At his look, she said, "Look, I know you're looking out for everyone else, but I'm looking out for you." "Okay, I get your point. I'll try to take it down a notch, but we need to go see if I can help." Harry compromised. "Okay," she said, and hugged him as he transported them to the hospital. They found Tony sitting by Happy's bed. When Harry walked in, Tony stood up. "Oh, thank God. Can you help him?" "I could, but you know the rules here. Nothing unexplainable, an unsecured environment," Harry said cryptically, looking around the room. He handed Tony a jar. "It's a burn cream, newly created by Potter Innovations." Actually, it was some of the stuff Harry still had from his old world. Bruce could make it now, so it was no loss. Nothing gets left behind. This is not for the general public. We can't produce enough yet, so we can't release it. You understand, right? Thank you, Harry. I'll make sure someone I can trust gets this stuff on him, Tony said. It won't leave my sight. That's good. I'll see you at your house in 1 hour so you get that stuff on him ASAP, Harry said. I'm sure he'll be fine. He's a fighter. Still not as strong as me though, Natasha joked. Not many are, Tony replied. They left the hospital room and apparated directly to Tony's house, as soon as they found a safe spot to do so. Then they waited. An hour and a half later, Tony came storming into the house. He saw them waiting and stopped. You didn't just happen to watch TV for the last half hour, did you? He asked, sheepishly. No, Natasha said, seeing Tony sag in relief. But we did receive calls from several different people saying something about you inviting a terrorist group to come kill you at home. Tony tensed again. You wouldn't be referring to that, would you? She didn't wait for an answer as she started walking to him deceptively calmly. Did you run this by Pepper? Did you ask my friend if it was okay for you to get her killed so you can challenge a mass murdering terrorist? The last part was screamed. She's right, Tony. You had no right. If it was just you, I could understand. But you completely forgot about her, didn't you? Harry asked scathingly. Harry was looking at Tony like he had never seen before. Harry was angry at him. He never wanted that. Suddenly, the weight of what he had done broke through the rage he felt. He paled and ran to the stairs to go get Pepper. Oh, she's long gone. We sent her to the guest room at my house, Harry said. She wasn't happy about it, but we made her. I'm afraid she'll be quite cross with me when she wakes up, Harry finished. You knocked her out? Tony asked angrily. I did, Natasha said, waving her gloved hand at him. She was being unreasonable. Apparently she would have rather stayed here and try to convince you to leave. And now I've got to leave Harry to go make sure she stays put. She then closed the last distance between Tony and herself. If anything happens to Harry while he helps you with this, I'll make sure you never have children. She said this softly so Harry wouldn't hear, and Tony saw a flash and looked down to see a knife between his legs. He froze. Do you understand? She asked sweetly. Yes, ma'am, Tony said softly. Good. The knife vanished and she turned around to Harry and went to give him a hug. See you later. Be careful, she said. Then she let him go and ported home. Your girlfriend is crazy scary, Tony said, looking at the spot she had just vacated. You realize she could just be invisible, right? Harry mocked. No, I did not, Tony said, looking around just in case. Is she? No, she left. Good thing too, because we have to talk. Harry said. What's going on with you, man? I've been telling you for months I know you're not okay, but you keep telling me you're fine. I know you wouldn't have done that if you were in your right mind. I don't know, okay? Tony exclaimed as he started breathing hard again. I believe, Master Stark, that you are experiencing another anxiety attack. Jarvis spoke up. No, I'm not. I'm just out of breath. Tony wheezed. I thought so. Jarvis, have you identified all of the triggers? Harry asked. It started mildly but has since progressed in severity. These days it's almost anything that makes him nervous or stressed, probably due to lack of sleep and his habit of ignoring the problem. Jarvis informed Harry. Shut up, Jarvis, Tony exclaimed. He doesn't need to know that. I'm sorry, sir. Jarvis apologized smugly. Yes, I do. You're in pain, and I've not helped you. I blame myself for this. I should have just forced you to sit with a shrink, Harry said. Would you? Tony asked sarcastically. If I needed to, but I don't. I'm not falling apart at the seams and endangering the person I love or the people that I supposedly care for, Harry replied. Like you know anything about Tony stopped, realizing what he was about to say. Of course Harry knew. He'd seen it all. Harry was forced into much the same situations over and over again before he was even 18. Sorry, I know you can actually understand, but it still doesn't make it easier. Every time I close my eyes I see the void, knowing I will never come home. I accepted it, you know. I had to, before I entered the portal. I'm sorry, Tony, Harry said as he walked up and put a hand on his shoulder. We should have made a different plan. I'm sure I could have done something. No, your magic would have detonated the bomb right there. We made the right call. I just don't know how to deal with it. I'm still up there and I don't know if I'll ever come back down. Tony finished weakly. We'll figure something out, Harry said. Confidently. Tony smiled weakly at him, and then the doorbell rang. Jarvis, aren't we on full security lockdown? Tony asked. Come on, Tony. You told everybody where you live. Don't blame Jarvis if he doesn't fire lasers at a reporter, Harry said. Thank you, Harry, but I don't have lasers. Mr. Stark decided that would be overkill. Jarvis replied. Tony got in a nearby suit, noticing Harry vanish. While they were talking, Harry noticed that this Maya Hansen seemed stressed, and Tony kept deflecting, being his usual self, when faced with people from his past. She asked about Tony's gift to Pepper, the giant stuffed rabbit, and somehow that made him explode. While he was ranting on about the gift, Harry noticed what she was pointing to on the TV screen. A missile was headed straight for Tony's house. Tony noticed it too and said, "Don't worry about it." "Don't worry about it," Maya exclaimed, covering her head as instinct old as man took over. Harry did what he did while he made himself comfortable in front of the window and cast an inversion hex at it. Immediately it turned around and started heading for the chopper that had fired it. The magic, though, proved Tony's point by making it explode before it hit the chopper. It swerved a bit and fired another missile, 2 other choppers joining it. Soon there were a lot of explosions right outside the house. Tony had not wasted his time, though, and had called his latest creation to him. He was soon in the air going after the attackers. He'd taken 2 of them down when things went slightly pear-shaped. Harry had been protecting the house still when one of the missiles he had redirected veered towards Tony, and exploded right behind him. "Tony!" Harry screamed, forgetting for a moment he had company, and watched as Tony plummeted into the water. He was still watching the water when everything went black. When Harry woke up, he was tied to some kind of table, and there was a doctor bringing a needle to his skin. Instantly awake, he made a quick illusion and held the needle so the doctor would think the needle was in him. When a strange orange liquid started flowing through the pipe connected to the needle, he started vanishing it off his arm before it left the scope of the illusion. "Hello. Good to see you're awake, Harry Potter, CEO and founder of Potter Innovations." It was a man Harry had never seen. He was blonde, with a strong jawline and dressed in a tailored suit. "I'd say more, but there's so little of you available, except for what Stark Industries releases, which is nothing." "Where did you take me? How long was I out?" Harry asked the man. "You don't seem to know how this works. This is where you ask me. Who are you?" the man said. "You're the bad guy. Bad guys always start with a speech. I'm planning on killing you and destroying the world, and here's how I'm going to do it." "You're all so predictable," Harry scoffed, rolling his eyes. "You have me all wrong. I'm not going to destroy the world, I'm just using you as bait. See, Tony is out there right now, wondering what happened to his friend. When we tell him you're with us, he'll come running, and when he arrives he'll want to save you. And for that he'll need to help us finish the serum that sometimes blows up the person it's injected into." The man smiled then. "How does it feel? Is it starting to burn yet?" "Not really, I'm unique in that things that I don't want don't affect me," Harry stated. It was a complete lie, but the man seemed to buy it, looking over at the screen monitoring his vitals. "How? You're a mutant, aren't you? That would explain the invisibility, the missiles, and the reason you're so secretive," the man said with another amazed smile. "Oh, we are going to have so much fun taking you apart, seeing what makes you tick." "That or you could go to sleep," Harry said. He waved his hand and knocked the goons out when the man simply toppled over. Natasha became visible, finger where the man's neck used to be. "How long have you been looking for me?" Harry asked as he freed himself. "For an hour or so, once we realized Tony was alone. I had Fox try to find you. We followed your trail till we got here. You've been missing for a day, Harry." Natasha informed him. "I'm so not letting you leave my side again. I think that Maya woman knocked me out while I was focused on Tony falling into the sea," Harry said, hugging her tight. She was not reciprocating. "What's wrong?" Harry asked, moving back and looking in her eyes, concerned. "It's nothing, let's talk about it later, not when we're surrounded by unconscious enemies," she said, looking about the room. She had been so scared. Harry had never been taken. She was concerned for him and herself, wondering what she'd do if she ever met the person that hurt or killed him. She didn't like what she came up with. "Okay, I understand." Harry let it go for now. They turned to where the main guy was lying, only to find a hole burned through the ground. "What the?" Harry asked, looking down through it. The guy was still lying there unconscious. "I'm a mutant, am I?" Harry asked sarcastically. "Let's take them to S.H.I.E.L.D. We'll need one of their power-dampening cells to interrogate this man." It was an hour later when they had finished the interrogation. Aldrich Killian was not immune to Veritaserum. Harry did the standard obliviation for knowledge of who he was, and his goons got the same. They were soon on their way to where the Mandarin was being kept. Fury was on the line directly to the president. They'd leave without the Iron Patriot suit on board, and Secret Service would take the vice president into custody the next day. Once all the evidence had been gathered. When they arrived, Tony had been captured and was tied to an upturned bed. He was still unconscious. Maya was sitting there, working on her laptop, awaiting Killian. Harry didn't even give her a second glance. They had knocked all the armed guards out and he'd left her for Natasha, who knocked her out the old-fashioned way. She was still considering waking her up so she could do it again, when there was a groan from Tony. Harry put a finger to his ear and said, "We got Tony, how are things your side?" "We got Rhodes. The suit is gone, though," came the reply from Steve. "Okay, bring him this way. See you now," Harry said. Then he looked at Natasha. "Want to have some fun?" he asked. "Pepper, I think," Natasha confirmed. Harry quickly disillusioned the knocked-out lady after immobilizing her and went invisible before he changed Natasha to look and sound like Pepper. Tony woke up slowly. When he finally focused, it was to see Pepper, sitting on a chair, hands behind her back, looking at him. "You still think it was a good idea to invite a terrorist to our house?" she asked angrily. "Pepper, hold on, I'll get us out of here," Tony said, starting to struggle to loosen his bonds. "And what if they come in here right now and shoot me in the head? Will you take my body home to be buried?" Pepper continued. "That won't happen. I'll get us out of this," Tony said, doubling his efforts. "What about next time then?" Pepper asked him. "This will never happen again, I promise. First thing I'm doing when we get home is having Harry hide it," Tony said. Suddenly Pepper got up and turned into Natasha. "I'll remember to tell her that," she smirked at Tony. "And don't think I've forgotten that you let Harry get taken." There was suddenly no smile. Harry then became visible. Steve and Logan joined us to help out. They just found Rhodes. The suit is gone, though. Tony was still shocked. His heart was running a mile a minute. "You assholes! That was too mean," Tony exclaimed. "You deserve worse," Natasha said emphatically as a knife appeared in her hand. She cut him loose and put it away again. "On second thought, maybe you deserve an apology." Tony changed his tune. "On the bright side, I met this kid who helped me through an attack." "Smart kid." Tony changed the subject. "If you've found someone that helps, I suggest you keep them in your life," Harry suggested. "Yeah, I'm going to set him up so he can work that brain of his. Maybe one day he can join us at Stark Industries or Potter Innovations," Tony said conversationally, still eyeing Natasha, who had not stopped glaring at him. Steve and Logan soon arrived with Rhodes. He was banged up, but okay. "We've got to get to Air Force One. They've got plans for the president," Rhodes said. "The president is aware. They plan to leave without him," Harry said. "Ghost? I should have known it was you with how quick help arrived," Rhodes said. "But we have to go. This guy won't stop because it's in the air." "You know the flight plan?" Harry asked. "No, but I can get it," Rhodes assured him. "Okay, everybody grab hold. We're going to the airport," Harry said. "I need a lift home quick for a suit. Can you drop me? My port key got lost at the ocean." "I think the new suit cut it off accidentally," Tony said. "Well, that at least explained one thing," Harry thought. "Sure, but make it the MI Tech one. We need to do this quick," Harry agreed. Natasha had just gotten off her comms with Fury. He'd be sending people to round up the people they had knocked out. "Let's go," she said. Everybody put a hand on Harry and they were apparated away. "What the hell was that?" Rhodes asked. "Questions later. Don't discuss this with anyone. Do you understand?" Harry asked while Tony quickly got in a suit and came back. "Rhodey, this is above your pay grade. Don't tell anyone. The information stays with you or it gets removed, okay?" Tony said. "Removed? Mission now, talk later," Steve interrupted urgently. "Okay, take hold again." Everybody put a hand on Harry and soon they were standing on a runway. Harry handed Rhodes his phone. "Get that flight plan." He then took out his bag and unfurled his new carpet. He'd have too many to carry otherwise. Rhodes got the information and turned around to see everyone had vanished. A hand appeared out of nowhere and pulled him onto the invisible carpet. They were already rising into the air. "Which way?" Harry asked impatiently. "Are we on a—" Rhodes began. "Which way?" half the group exclaimed. Rhodes pointed in a direction and sat down. Soon the carpet had taken off in that direction, accelerating faster and faster. Rhodes was dumbstruck. They had soon caught up with the plane, and Harry flew alongside it. It seemed they were in time. There didn't seem to be any damage to it. "So, what do we do when Iron Patriot arrives?" Rhodes asked. "Harry will take care of it," Tony said. "I will, but you'll need to be in the air to catch him. We want the president seeing something being done, not just hearing about it," Harry suggested. They waited, and when Rhodes spotted the gleam off in the distance, Tony got ready. They moved away from the plane, and Harry got the suit with a stunner. It died instantly and started plummeting. Tony jumped off, caught the suit by one hand, and flew up and to the plane. When he was close enough, he found the president staring at him through an open window, and Tony saluted, before veering off again. They waited until they were out of view before Harry made the carpet visible. He hit the suit a couple of more times with a stunner just in case the man inside was playing possum, and they left to deliver their final prisoner to S.H.I.E.L.D. The headlines the next day were all along the vein of, "Avengers stop Mandarin and his plot against the president," and "Vice President caught conspiring against the president with Mandarin." Memories were wiped where necessary, and Rhodes signed a contract so he could keep his... He had an invitation to visit the Avengers house, but was waiting till his suit was repaired. They had been requested to present themselves to receive medals for service to the country the next week. Harry had declined. He had more important things to do. He had promised his girlfriend a week away, simply enjoying a bit of time on the beach, just the two of them. It was the third night, and they were lazing in the open-air hot spring. Harry had charmed some fairy lights to fly about, and soft music was playing in the background when he broached the subject. "So, Natasha, I know you've had something on your mind. Can we talk about it, please?" "I don't know if I want to spoil the mood," she replied evasively. "Well, it's been bothering me, and I can't fully relax knowing you are unhappy with me," Harry said. "Please tell me what's going on." Natasha closed her eyes for a minute, and then started talking. "I was taking care of Pepper. She was really worried. The news cameras had seen Tony fall into the water, but never saw him come up again. We knew you were helping, and wouldn't let him drown, but you never came back. When we went to Tony's place the next day, we found a message from him. You were not with him, and we know you can go anywhere, instantly. So I panicked." She closed her eyes to fight the tears. She failed. "Harry, I thought you were dead. I thought it was my fault for leaving you alone. I know you can't do everything, but sometimes you make it feel like you can't lose. You've never been so heavily injured that you couldn't get back up, even with your spine severed. You just kept getting up and carrying on. When I found out you were missing," here she stopped for a moment, trying to rein in her emotions, but she was losing the fight. She suddenly jumped on him, hugging him fiercely. "Harry, I can't feel like that again. I let you in, and now I can't not care." She leaned back a bit, looked him in the eyes, seeing his own tears running, and whispered, "I love you." "I love you too," Harry whispered back and hugged her fiercely again. After a minute he said with a bit of a smile, still holding her, "I wanted to tell you first, no fair. You did, the night before you went missing. You crawled into bed late and I heard you say it. When I looked up you were asleep already. I had a very good night's sleep. I was planning on telling you the next day, but..." She was interrupted with him kissing her. When the kiss ended he said, "I'm so sorry you went through that. I screwed up. I should never have let my guard down. She must have heard where I was when I screamed after Tony fell. I thought I had killed him, and I forgot for a second that I had company. Well, you'll never have to worry about that again, because I'm never leaving your side again," Natasha promised fervently. They spent that night under the stars in a hammock. The following morning they woke up to a soft hoofbeat close by. The unicorn foal had found them and was approaching them interestedly. Its parents were close by and watching warily, but didn't seem scared. Logan had done a marvelous job with them. The whole island was the foal's playground. He was sometimes even seen playing in the hot spring since it was shallow enough for him, with steps in and out. Quite the energetic little guy. He had never approached them before though. Natasha smiled and slowly reached her hand out to its head. It smelled her hand and then took a step forward, so she could rub its neck. After a short while it looked up and went to join its parents, as they wandered off again. Pepper was going to be so jealous. "You should trust its judgment," Harry said as he hugged her close again for a moment. Normally a unicorn would only approach a person with a pure heart. It was often confused with virgins, where I come from. Harry chuckled. "Me? A pure heart?" Natasha scoffed. "Just like I told you," Harry confirmed seriously. Natasha thought about it for a second. If she had a pure heart, it was all thanks to one person. She didn't say it, but the kiss she gave him imparted her meaning clearly. They spent the day in luxury, eating and drinking as they pleased until Harry felt his mirror vibrate. I swear, if this is work, the world better be ending. He went inside and activated the mirror. Greetings, Lord Potter, Odin said from the other side. King Odin, to what do I owe the pleasure? Harry was glad it wasn't Fury or the Avengers. We, the Queen and I, decided to take you up on your offer to come stay on your island for a couple of days, and we're hoping you wouldn't mind the company, Odin said. Let me just quickly ask Lady Natasha. I promised this week to her. It needs to be her choice, if you don't mind. Harry apologized. I know well what it means to keep a promise to a lady. I'll wait for an answer, Odin said, and then stood there, waiting. He was going to expect an answer right then, it seemed. Just one moment, Harry said, and put the mirror down on the table, looking out onto the ocean. He went out to where Natasha was reading under an umbrella in front of the sea. Natasha, dear, the King of Asgard has decided to take us up on the offer of a bit of time away. That's wonderful. When was Odin planning on visiting? Natasha asked with a smile. As far as I can tell now, Harry said. I told him it was up to you as this is your week, he quickly clarified. Thanks for putting it all on me. I can't very well say no now, can I? She asked in mock annoyance. Is that a yes? Harry asked hopefully. It's a yes. She smiled at him. Thank you, he said with a smile as he ran off to go give Odin her answer. She smiled after him. If she didn't know any better, she'd think he was a kid expecting his beloved grandparents to visit. Then she remembered that he never had such things. If they could be that for him, she'd not hold it against him. Harry picked up the mirror and turned it around again. She said, it's fine, he said with a smile. That is marvelous news. I shall inform the royal guard. At Harry's look he laughed. I jest. It shall be only the Queen and I. That way we can be certain nobody is around when I instruct you in the arts, as was my promise. That would be wonderful, but please remember to rest. If you are to enjoy the time away, you cannot be on your feet the whole time, Harry said. Very well, we shall take the port key you left last time for the island and bring only the necessities. We shall see you in a couple of hours. Goodbye, Odin finished. See you soon, Harry said with a smile and closed the connection. The King and Queen of Asgard were set up with their own house for the time of their visit. For what they were used to, Odin and Frigga were happy to lend a hand when necessary. Of course, that didn't mean Harry and Natasha were useless as hosts either. They took their guests on a trip around the island, showing them the creatures that were in their enclosures and the ones wandering the island. When asked, Harry would explain what parts of the animals were being used and how they either were or were planning on extracting the ingredients. So far, everything had been done humanely. Not one animal had been killed either. Fox had volunteered to help heal the animals, where the parts they required would normally require the animal to be killed. Fortunately, the majority of the parts they needed were external. Sometimes it was blood, but Logan proved capable of extracting that safely with a syringe. As long as he was given a salve to close the wound again. For the most part, the animals seemed to be quite peaceful. Realizing they were being kept safe and fed was all they really required. Frigga shocked him by sometimes walking over to them and running her hands over them, stating that she could feel their bonds. She was happy that they had been captured together, and when Harry mentioned that Logan was in charge of choosing which animals were brought, she insisted on meeting him. Harry, Logan answered the mirror. Hi Logan, where are you right now? Harry asked. Spending time with the dragon. Why? Logan replied. I've got someone who wants to meet you, Harry said. Here on the island, Logan seemed to think about it. Okay, bring them over, Logan said and ended the call. You'll have to excuse his manners. He was reborn in the wild and prefers nature, so he tends to be forward and direct. Harry apologized for the man. Best person I could find for the job though. Fear not, I will not take offense, unless he means it. Frigga waved it off. Harry took the carpet they had been using over the tree line and flew directly to the dragon's cave, which was somewhat up the plateau. Logan reasoned it would be a useful vantage point, especially if the dragon wanted to take off for a bit of a flight. When they landed, Frigga stepped off of the carpet and walked directly into the cave, with Harry following right behind her. She walked into the large enclosure and saw Logan brushing the dragon's scales with a brush. When he saw them, he held up a hand for them to stop, and finished what he was doing. Then he patted her gently and walked away. The dragon seemed to be contentedly napping. Logan walked up to them and looked at the queen and then Harry. "This her?" he asked, gruffly. "I am Frigga. I wanted to meet the man who is responsible for all the life that has been brought to the island." Frigga said. "You that Queen Harry invited to come visit?" Logan asked. "I am," Frigga said with a smile. "Should I bow or something?" Logan asked calmly, still wiping his hands down with a dirty cloth. "Nothing like that is necessary. I just wanted to meet the man that protected so many bonded groups together. I can feel many of their connections to you," Frigga said. "Connections?" Logan asked with a look of worry. "Yes. It seems that, while Harry owns the island, you are master here. Most of the animals respect you as their leader. All of them know you are master here," Frigga informed him. "I am no master. At best I'm a keeper. I bring them food and make sure they're happy. That's all," Logan said. "Exactly. Like a good leader, you ensure they are fed and happy," Frigga said, then asked, "What were you doing with the dragon?" "She's still injured and malnourished. She can't groom properly. I don't know enough to know why it's necessary, but the animal knows its own nature. Instinct keeps on driving her to try to groom. I don't want her to injure herself further, so I'm helping," Logan explained. "It is to prevent a buildup of bacteria," Harry said. "It's commonly referred to as scale rot. If not groomed properly, the scales become brittle and can lead to other, more serious disorders." "And you just knew to help her without knowing this?" Frigga asked, amazed. "Nature knows best," Logan explained with a shrug. "I'll start looking through those books tonight. I've been kind of busy," he apologized to Harry. "Not a problem," Harry said. "I trust you. And so do the animals. I can sense the dragon trying to form a bond with you. A strong one. Was she abandoned?" Frigga asked. "She was the runt and the others of her den were trying to keep her from hunting." "What do you mean a strong bond?" Logan asked, looking back. "Like the one Harry has with Fawkes. She sees you as her only companion, and wants to keep you," Frigga said. "You have probably cared more for her than she has ever experienced. Would you allow her this connection?" she asked. "Does she need it?" Logan asked. "No, but it would help her feel secure. When she is no longer a babe, she might even be able to speak to you through it," Frigga said. "Wait, she wants to be his familiar?" Harry asked incredulously. "Indeed," Frigga said with a smile. "Though from her perspective, it's just a form of friendship, much like you explained your connection to Fawkes. I don't see why we can't be friends." Logan said, a soft look in his eyes as he looked back at her. "Is it even possible?" "He's not a magical," Harry asked. "Normally, no, but since I am here, we can achieve it. This falls within my realm of expertise, and I think both Logan and the dragon deserve it." Frigga smiled warmly. Then she walked over to the dragon, who just sniffed at her. She lay a hand on its head, patting it softly, and then walked back to Logan and placed a single finger on his forehead. "You have my blessing too for your wonderful nature in caring for these creatures." "Thanks," Logan said. Then he touched his head. "Is that? Whoa." Logan looked at the dragon. "Huh? What do you know?" "She's trying to say thanks. She really is just a baby, isn't she?" "Quite so, but she will mature quickly, as is the nature of her kind," Frigga said. Odin had been standing on the side watching the proceedings. When they walked out, he asked Harry, "How many people on Midgard are ageless as you?" "I don't honestly know. Natasha and Logan are the only ones I ever met. There may be more, though. As I understand it, mankind is standing at the brink of an evolutionary leap. Some, like Logan, gain a strong healing factor when their mutations first manifest. His is one of the strongest, though. He heals so fast he's stopped aging," Harry explained. "Fascinating. If it's happened before, it was before my time. I'm glad to know that one of our allies might one day soon become a more powerful ally," Odin said. "Mutants are still new to the world, and people on Earth tend to fear what they don't understand. I think things will become violent before they are accepted," Harry said sadly. "On my world, people were so scared of magical people in the past that they started burning them at the stake and called them devil worshippers. The whole magical world ended up going into hiding." "And yet you strive to help Midgardians with your magic in secret?" Odin asked. "It is all I know. I can only provide that which I know. Tony has been very helpful in securing the processes for the help we do give," Harry said. "Oh yes, Heimdall has been telling us how you are providing basic necessities to people in less civilized portions of the world. When those corrupt few try to take their precious resources from them, you send a man named Wilson to dissuade them, Odin asked with a smirk. I knew you had something to do with that. Natasha laughed. I'm not proud of it, but without those resources many will die. Harry said looking down. Fair enough. Natasha dropped the subject. Hey, wouldn't he count as ageless too? She then asked. It's very likely. His healing factor is almost exactly like Logan's, Harry theorized. He then turned to Odin. But you don't want to meet him. He's strange, he said. It was later that day, when he and Odin were at the bar and Frigga and Natasha were having a private discussion, while enjoying the swimming pool that Odin brought up the Asgardian magic. It seems we have a moment to start your education. You were still interested in the instruction, were you not? Definitely. There is so much I'd like to ask, Harry started. Let us focus on the basics first. Before we start on application, we should start with theory. Let me give you an example and you tell me what you think, Odin said. He picked up a shell from the bar counter where it was placed for decoration and whispered something into it. Harry was standing right there, but couldn't hear a thing. Odin then put the shell down and looked at Harry. What did I just do? Harry looked at Odin and said, It looked like you were speaking to the shell. I couldn't hear you, so I don't know what you said. That is what you observed with your eyes and ears, but I didn't ask you what it looked or sounded like. I asked you what I did, Odin said. This was a test of sorts. He needed to know how the wizard learned what he'd do. Harry looked at Odin and shrugged. He picked up the shell and looked at it. Nothing seemed to have changed. Then he unleashed his magic to inspect the shell. Wait a minute. This is a construct. It isn't real. When did you put it there? Harry suddenly asked. You're on the right track. Tell me what I did, Odin encouraged. Harry focused his magic further. The shell seemed solid enough. His focus was so complete, he didn't realize his aura was growing, inspecting the object in as minute a detail as it could. As his aura grew, it touched the bar counter and he felt something. It seemed there was a thread of power connected between the shell and the counter. Harry then inspected the thread, and amazingly, it was like reading a mind. There was intent running between the counter and the shell. Harry looked at the shell and put it down on the counter, but a bit away from the location it had been. When he let go, the shell moved back to its starting location. You created the shell, somehow making me believe it was there all along. Then you enchanted it to be aware of its location, probably from the moment you set it down, and then made it so that it wanted to return to that location. I think? Harry said uncertainly. You've got it mostly right. This is indeed a construct, Odin said as he picked it up. But it is not a conjuration, like the ones you use. This one was given form by my will. I did not want you to know it was not there before, so you thought it had always been there. I wanted it to have a consciousness of its location when I put it down, so it gained the required intelligence, for the lack of a better word, to have that one function, much like a switch knows it has the function to be up or down. It's not so much intelligence as it is a function that it was designed for. So that's why I feel intent when I examine the thread. It has a limited desire to return to its starting location, Harry said. But how? That is what I intend to teach you, Odin said with a smile. Everything in the universe has a set of rules that control its existence. How much light it reflects, how gravity affects it, how many dimensions it exists in, and even if it can be touched by someone. Pick up the shell again, Odin instructed. Harry complied and his hand moved through it, unable to grasp it. He thought about it. If what Odin had just said was true, then it might just be him that was excluded from touching the shell. He took his glass and clinked it against the shell. It was solid. That's so cool. Harry and It is indeed. What I performed here would be considered temporary. It requires my being here to enforce its function. My will is actively on the construct even now. It requires focus and intent. If I wanted to make it permanent, that would be possible as well. But it takes more effort and sometimes time. It is easier on something that wasn't created though, Odin said. And so Harry's education started. He found that it functioned a lot like his own magic, but where his magic was taught to him using incantations and certain movements to shape the magic, until he was intimately familiar with the feel of the magic anyway. This was all about intent, the intent itself applying the function rather than the magic. It was much like how he had cast the shielding charm on the walls and layered it with happy memories to stop the Shadow King from escaping. Having an idea, Harry produced a Patronus to show to Odin. You have a spell that uses the concept already? That will be useful. Was it a difficult task to accomplish the first time? Odin asked. It was one of the more difficult spells I ever had to learn, that and Fiend Fire. It is a magical fire that has only one purpose, to consume. One needs a lot of focus to ensure it does only what it is meant to, and not continue eating everything. It feeds itself and so could basically continue indefinitely, if not cast by someone with a lot of skill. Harry explained. You can control it? Odin asked. I can. It seems a lot of the magics I learned that was considered dark magic was all about intent and using emotions to power them. Harry said, thinking about it. Asgardian magic can use emotion, but it is usually important to keep one's mind calm and not include emotion at all. The stronger the will of the caster, the more powerful the enchantment. If too much emotion is involved, the enchantment could become unstable and fail, Odin explained. That could explain why some of my own enchantment work sometimes fails actually. I was trying to enchant an item that shows the faces of one's enemies more clearly as they drew closer to you, but needed it to work for a mortal without any innate magic. I found that connecting an item to their blood gives it the ability to work for them, but every time I tried to enchant the functions of the mirror after the blood-binding enchantment is added, it would fail. For the blood-binding enchantment, I need to focus a lot of protective feelings into the enchantment. That's how it functions, by bonding and trying to protect its owner in whatever way the next enchantments allow. Harry explained. That does sound like it could be the cause of the failure. If you succeed in what I teach you, you might be able to bind people with intent to the items you create, rather than blood. It would make for just as strong a bond, and would allow you to know when items you create are used against its intended purpose, if you added that as part of its creation, Odin said. And just like that, Harry's education continued. They worked late into the night even after dinner, when they decided to go for another drink. Harry had been able to create a block by focusing his will, and Odin informed him it was good progress, and then instructed him on why the block's existence ended so soon. He had not taken into account all the factors that define its existence, and as such it unraveled. Harry marveled at the idea that Odin could keep his focus on something so complicated as the shell, but Odin assured him that it only takes practice, much like a spell that you get used to after a while. It starts becoming second nature to include all the required mental steps, until it becomes as easy as lifting a finger. Harry would need to practice though. Odin and Frigga very much enjoyed their stay at the beach and promised to do so again sometime, at the end of their second day. Odin had been in communication with his people constantly, to assure them he was fine and to confirm everything in Asgard was continuing as normal. When the time they had set aside for their first vacation in many years came to an end, Harry was sad to see them go, but happy for the time he had spent with them. Odin said his farewells to Harry in private. Continue your training, and one day soon I suspect you'll be able to achieve feats not even I thought was possible. Your magic is in some ways more pliable than our sort, but in other ways so limited. I suspect with the two of them working in harmony, you'll be the strongest sorcerer in any realm, even if you are already the strongest spellcaster, Odin said. Odin then looked over at Natasha, who was talking to Frigga. Take care of your intended. Frigga believes that you are ready for the next step but won't force your hand. Just yet anyway, he chuckled. If you do end up getting betrothed soon, please come and visit so that we may celebrate. The people of Asgard are excited for your pairing and would like nothing more than to celebrate it with you. Thank you, Odin, for your instruction and advice. I don't think that will happen anytime soon though. I'm not opposed to it. I just don't think we're ready, Harry said. My Frigga is seldom wrong, but if you wish to take your time, that is up to you. Just make sure it's what your lady wants. Odin said. I'll be sure to ask her. Thank you for the visit. I do like the time we spend with you. It's what I think visiting relatives you actually like would feel like, Harry said with a smile. We also enjoy your company. The warriors of Asgard seldom have extended discussions on the substance of the universe. It is very liberating to know that there are those who take to the ideas we can impart and learn from them so willingly, especially the esoteric subjects such as magic, Odin stated with a sad smile. Loki once learned from myself and Frigga with such devotion. I wonder sometimes what happened to that happy, intelligent young man. I hate to say it, but I suspect he was kept in his brother's shadow for so long that he wished to see the sun again, and found no other way out of his shadow than to leave it completely behind. That's what I got from our bits of conversation anyway. Maybe one day I should come visit and I can spend some time discussing what you have taught me. He may enjoy the company of someone who has the ability to talk to him about such things. Harry offered, and maybe he will be able to discuss things with someone he sees as an equal, that he will not discuss with those he feels betrayed him. Odin said, nodding, I would appreciate it if you tried. They joined Frigga and Natasha, who were standing in front of their guest house. Are we ready to depart, my queen? Odin asked. We are. Frigga turned to Harry. You were a very gracious host, and your lady a wonderful hostess. We will definitely visit again. Perhaps we could attend your wedding here on the island, she said with an upturned brow. When we decide to wed, I will personally deliver your invitations, and I don't see why the island could not host such an event, as long as all Asgard don't wish to join. Harry said non-committally. When you get married, you'll have to simply have 2 ceremonies. The people of Asgard will not settle for less. You are a lord and lady of the realm. If you do otherwise, it will be seen as an insult to the people who support you, which I'm told is nearly everybody. Frigga smiled. Do not argue with her on this. Odin chuckled. Frigga has probably already started planning your wedding as it is. Why is it always with the marriage talk? Harry asked the heavens. I will not be denied, young man, Frigga said sternly, and then hugged Harry, much to his surprise. He did not stay shocked for long, and hugged her back. You have a bright, troubled destiny, and your lady will want to be there with you every step she can. Do not make her wait too long to stake her claim. Your love might yet save you one day, she whispered in his ear. She already has, Harry whispered back, and she can claim me whenever she wants. Frigga let go of him and hugged Natasha, and then Odin clasped forearms with Harry and patted him on the shoulder, before hugging Natasha as well. Much to her shock, you take good care of Harry. He's going to need your strength one of these days, he whispered in her ear. I will, she promised. Odin and Frigga soon left, leaving Harry and Natasha with 2 days on their own. What were you two discussing with all the time you spent alone? Harry asked her as they started walking back to their house. Oh, this and that. She kept on giving me advice on how to get you to propose. I kept on telling her that you'll do it when you're ready. Natasha smirked at him. She suggested I get pregnant at one point. Care to explain how I am not, given that we have yet to be safe? Is that something you want? Should I start planning for it? Harry asked with a smile of his own. There's a charm in place on me to prevent any accidents. I would not say we're ready, even though I don't see myself marrying anyone but you. But I'm enjoying what we have right now, Natasha assured him. As for accidents, I think we can wait for one of those too. I agree, why change what works for us? Maybe when we both decide we need a change of pace, Harry asked. Or have time to start a family. I think that sounds great, Natasha said as she took his hand and led him into their house. They did not leave for many hours. They were distracted for the last couple of days, and Natasha intended to catch up. Magic did many a wonderful thing that added to their fun, and she loved exploring all of them. They enjoyed their time away, but as with all good things, it came to an end. Harry went back to his lab, the Institute, S.H.I.E.L.D. and the island's growing population. Natasha was always right beside him. He did slow down some, though. There was always time for Natasha and him to spend alone. They sometimes went to other countries for dates. Sometimes they'd stay in and watch a movie with Bruce, Sif, and Steve. Sif and Steve still preferred romances. Bruce did not complain when the movie ended and Sif dragged him to her room. Steve was still not ready to see anyone. Harry had offered to give him a false appearance, so he could be anonymous or not attract fangirls, but he didn't like the idea. Apparently it was like lying, and Steve did not do one-night stands. Harry understood, but kept on inviting him to come out on the town anyway. Sometimes he'd join and actually have some fun, but the rest of the time he was focused on his own passions and the missions, either with S.H.I.E.L.D. or with Bruce, Sif, and Logan. Steve and Logan's friendship grew stronger as they reconnected. Logan's memories were coming back faster and faster. Harry hoped he'd not have to enter the man's mind, so he encouraged their use of the pensieve while he and Nat sat nearby or played pool. Harry would also dedicate some time every day to practice his intent-based magic, controlling his emotions strictly so he could focus on only the intent. He was working on more and more difficult constructs. Odin had been right in that some parts of it would become second nature to him, like considering the different aspects of the item's existence. He found that after a while he could add those without thinking. since everything in the physical realm has to follow the same rules. When he felt he had mastered the creation of objects based solely on intent, he started trying to make his creations permanent, which did take time, but he had moderate success with smaller things. Bruce had finally finished his mastery books and was currently working on creating new potions. He was excited when one day he called Harry in to come see something. "What do you have?" Harry asked, walking in the door. Bruce's lab had grown out of necessity. Harry had complied, and it was now twice as large as it had once been. Tony had gifted him a supercomputer, which was built into another part of the house, but it was helping Bruce run simulations. "Look here." Bruce showed him a screen showing cells of some sort. "These are the cells of a recently atrophied muscle." He tapped a couple of keys and something on the screen changed. "This is after application of a new potion I'm running simulations on. See how the cells are larger here and here?" He pointed out the affected portions. "If my calculations are correct, we've almost come to a solution to muscular dystrophy." "You know that I don't understand the finer details of this, right?" Harry asked. "That's not the point. Look at this." He typed another command and a new screen popped up. It showed a video of something similar. "This is what happened when I made the potion and tried it on a sample." Harry watched with more interest now. The results were very similar. The results were the same as the simulation. Bruce exclaimed. "You mean to tell me that you've gathered enough data that you can speculate on a potion recipe on a computer and come up with viable results?" Harry asked, thinking he had gotten it. "Yes, it means we can save ingredients while I plan a potion and have a reasonable comparison that allows us to create custom potions with no side effects," Bruce said happily. "We no longer need test subjects. We can run a simulation and test the results on the machine before needing to use the potion. Then we can have the computer look into all the possible ways to create the potion and come up with the cheapest or fastest viable method. Then we just need to set up a machine that is programmed with the use of the ingredients. And we can do what Tony does with Jarvis. We can start looking into automatic brewing, like he does automatic assembly." "That's amazing, Bruce," Harry crowed. Never in a million years did he think Bruce would take things so far. What a world they lived in where a computer could test and produce magic potions. "I take it you'll be speaking to Tony about building something like this for you?" Harry asked with a huge smile on his face. "That's my next step. I just wanted to share my results with you. This isn't at 100% yet, but give me a couple of months and we'll have the first ever potion brewing computer. We're not even done yet. With the results I'm getting, we'll be able to look for viable potions ingredients from new species of creatures, simply by having the machine analyze it. Imagine bringing in a couple of hairs from a new species we discover, and having it tested while you sleep. The next day the computer tells you if there's a use for it, what aspects of what potions it could enhance or affect, or what new potions possibilities it may contain. Our options will become nearly limitless. Every test we run, we just get closer to curing one more disease, and at some point in the future it could very well all be automated. No chance of human error," Bruce exclaimed. Harry had never seen Bruce so happy. That's why it pained him to say the next. "I'm sorry, Bruce, but it won't be that simple. Potions aren't a science. There will always be the requirement for instincts and the human component in potions. No computer can see all the variables and react in time when something goes wrong. Your idea is noble, but when I introduced you to potions, I warned you that only some parts of it could be brought up to scientific standards. Adding half a turn while stirring because you can see a reaction hasn't finished completing, or the quality of the ingredient will always be a factor a computer cannot take into account." Bruce's face dropped. He had known somehow that it couldn't be that simple. "I suppose you're right, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stop trying to make it better and easier for us to get better results," he said stubbornly. "And I know for a fact that some of the easier potions will not suffer from being automated." "That's the spirit. Who knows? One day you might invent a machine that can measure magical reactions properly and in real time, and then your dream can come true," Harry said, glad he hadn't broken Bruce's stride too much. "That is a good idea. I'll speak to Tony about that rather. Maybe we can work together and come up with something." Bruce had that hopeful look again. Harry was happy for him. Bruce would one day cure cancer, he was certain of it. From the sounds of it, he had already started down the path to resolving some medical issues already. It was a month before Harry made the time to visit Asgard again. There was only one reason for it too. Harry was visiting with Loki. He and Natasha had arrived in their assigned room. Harry had spoken to Heimdall beforehand, though. Somehow it did not feel right to arrive on Asgard without speaking to the guy. They exited the room and a servant was waiting for them. "This way, please. You are expected in the waiting room outside the royal chambers." They followed the man and waved at the few people that they recognized. Trig had shaken hands with Harry, thanking him again for the magical eye patch he had sent along. Harry had enchanted it to look like his other eye and follow it about. Both Odin and Fury had opted to keep theirs looking like they had, for their own reasons. Trig was dressed in his Asgardian war attire, and decided to escort them as they walked, walking somewhat behind them, to show his respect for Harry and his lady. Once the Bifrost was repaired, we didn't even need to go out fighting. We'd already kept every realm protected, thanks to your gift. Trig was saying, without that, I may have actually had a challenge. Harry wasn't certain, but he thought Trig was slightly mad at him for spoiling the chance for a more dangerous fight. Should Lord Harry be saying that he's sorry or that you're welcome? Natasha asked him with a smile. Don't misunderstand, Lady Natasha. I am happy there is peace once more, but I would have been happy to die in battle and be welcomed to the halls of Valhalla. Trig said mournfully, no matter, I've got a couple hundred more years left in me, I think. Plenty of time to get into trouble, he finished with a smile. Harry and Natasha laughed, and Trig joined them. It seemed he wasn't all that mad after all. Depending on what kind of mad you meant anyway. They soon reached the waiting room and were offered tea while they waited. It was only 5 minutes, though, before Frigga entered. Harry dear, so good to see you, she said as she engulfed him in a hug. And Natasha, she continued as she hugged Natasha. Have you come bearing good news? She said, looking at Natasha's hand for a ring. Then she seemed to pout. You're going to make an old woman wait till her deathbed, aren't you? Stop pushing them, Frigga, Odin said with a smile as he entered, closing the door behind him. It has scarcely been a month. Let them enjoy the time a while yet. If they refuse to in a couple of years, I'll set Freki and Gary on them until they relent, Odin said with a smile and a pointed look at Harry as he clasped arms with him. Well met, Lord Potter. He quickly hugged Natasha. Lady Natasha, to what do owe the pleasure of your presence here today? Well met, King Odin, Queen Frigga. My Harry has come to have a conversation with a certain prisoner as he said he would. Natasha said and turned to Frigga, and Frigga, you cannot call yourself old. You look like you are still in your prime and I refuse to hear different, she said with a smile. Flattery will get you nowhere, but it does help, Frigga relented. My lady speaks nothing but the truth. King Odin, your queen is beautiful as always, Harry said. True though your words are, it seems we have something more important to discuss. Did you have time to think on how you will approach this? Odin asked suddenly, very interested in the conversation. I did, but I don't think you're going to like it, Harry said with a wince. I have 3 ways of compelling information from people. 1. Harry took a vial out of a pocket. Verite serum, truth, in a bottle. Once 3 drops are ingested, the recipient cannot tell a lie for an hour. Harry put the vial away and took out a piece of paper. 2. I give him the freedom to talk as he will and bind us both to a magical contract that we do not divulge each other's secrets. Harry put the paper away and then looked Odin in the eye. 3. I enter his mind against his will and force the information out of him. I have told you that I will not compel you to do so if it is not something you like to do, Odin said. May I assume you are going to ask him to willingly sign the contract and attempt a conversation with him? Odin asked. There is more to it, but I must first ask you to trust me. What we discuss will have to remain private. If I had permission or discuss the next part of my plan with you, he will surely feel like you were playing him. If we are to gain his trust, I must have the freedom to offer him a deal, but I cannot tell you what it is beforehand. Harry said grimly. You would ask that I give you command of his future without knowing what that might be, Odin asked with a glint of steel in his voice. This was his son, he could not simply give that right away freely. But he knew Harry well. The time they've spent together had shown Odin all he needed to know, that Harry would not ask this if he had another choice. Are you sure you can make him see reason? He asked instead. I don't know, but if I tell you anything, I'm sure he'll see your hand in my plan. I will also require permission from Frigga. Even if your judgment is final, his mother must have a say in it, or I will not in good faith be able to continue with my plan. I need something I have never asked of you. Blind faith. Harry finished. What say you, Lady Natasha? You have yet to say a word, Frigga asked. I don't like his plan, but I believe it has a high chance for success. It is also exactly as he says. The more you know, the less chance of success it has. I can tell you more if you agree, but only as soon as Harry leaves. He cannot know of your feelings to the plan or it would negate his effort. If I do tell you the plan, you must also promise not to interfere. For once you know, whether you show up or not will also answer the same question. That of whether you approve. Natasha said, "Why should we agree, if even your lady does not like the plan?" Odin asked. "Is there no other way where we have the freedom of choice? Where you are not at odds with Natasha so?" Odin pleaded. "Would you give up the chance to tell your son one more time that you love him and know that he knew you meant it? For the security of my answering one more question," Harry asked seriously. Odin picked up something very important in this question. He had to give the right answer now and live with the consequences. "I would give my life for my son, Loki, to hear it one more time and believe me. He does not believe me, but he is as dear to me as Thor and Frigga. We are family, and we care for him whether he wishes to hear it or not." Odin then straightened. "You have my permission to proceed with your plan, and I will carry the consequences freely. You have my trust, as you do mine. I wish I could give you more, but I suspect that any attempt I make to help you will only hamper your efforts to bring my beloved son back to me. I have already lost his trust, I fear," Frigga said as a tear rolled down her cheek. Harry smiled and walked out of the room. Natasha started her explanation, as Harry was led to Loki's cell. The people of Asgard trusted him so that they did not once try to impede him as he went. Harry only received respectful nods. When he got to the cell, he turned to the man in charge. "Let me in and lock us in together. None are to disturb us." "Of course, Lord Harry," the warrior said, saluting him by putting his hand over his heart. He pressed a button on a control and the shield came down. Loki just sat there looking smugly at him. Harry was keeping his guard up and feeling for any magic around. Loki was not attempting anything yet, so Harry stepped inside and felt the wall of intent-laced magic close behind him. "So, the ghost has come to speak to me. Did you want me to surrender my information?" Loki asked snidely. Harry simply raised his hand and Loki flinched. Harry smirked and conjured himself a chair. Then he cast security spells that would keep their conversation private. "I am here to try and speak to you. That is all. I know of your situation and your father has asked me to try and make you see reason. I come with a different proposal. How would you like your freedom?" "You do not have the authority," Loki sneered. "On the contrary, your father," Harry started. "He is not my father," Loki exclaimed. "You did not speak to Laufey as I killed him myself. So you did not speak to my father," he finished with a smile on his face. "You and I have different definitions of the word father, but that is not what is important here, so let me rephrase. Odin has given me full rights to make you an offer. I did not specify what offer I would make or how I would make it, but you will not believe me on that, will you?" "Silvertongue?" Harry asked. "You know nothing, and you are bluffing. You cannot make this offer and you lie," Loki scoffed. Harry smiled and withdrew a piece of paper. "See the contents and look at the magic. I am told you have a slight aptitude for the craft." Harry mocked and handed it over. Loki sneered again but took the paper and inspected it. The words were simple. If the owner of the contract states the other's name, he will receive a wound on his right hand. The beneficiaries were both of them. Loki scoffed and inspected the magic. "This cannot be. It is bound to the soul. If we signed this, we could not break the enchantment until the contract is destroyed," he said in awe. "How did you conceive of this?" he asked. "I wish I could claim conception of this method of enforcement, but I cannot. Someone far more intelligent than I conceived of it many years ago. This contract is an example. I will sign it and then you will. We will then break the contract. When you are convinced of its authenticity, I will offer another contract, but not before the current one is signed and the demonstration is complete," Harry said. He held his hand out and Loki handed it back, sitting back and smiling. This ghost had forgotten who he was dealing with. Harry signed the contract, then he handed it back. "There you go. Your turn, Loki Odinson," Harry said. Suddenly there was a gash on the back of Harry's hand, and it started bleeding. "Thank you," Loki said as he took the contract, "but I don't think I will sign the contract." He smiled victoriously, seeing Harry's name in red. "Instead, I will sit here and watch you bleed." He then laughed. "I thought you might," Harry said offhandedly. "I suppose I'll just have to bleed out and keep the rest of my secrets to myself in death." Like the other contract I have that will not allow us to lie to each other. So many questions I have that will never be answered, Harry said with a sad smile. And what would I attain out of that? Loki said, also smiling, believing he had the upper hand. The knowledge of whether I can, in fact, offer you your freedom. For one, Harry said, conversationally, looking at his damaged hand interestedly. You bluff. I would enjoy your last moments too much to give you the satisfaction, Loki said. Are you sure? Is it completely impossible, given how easily I gained access to this cell? At this, Harry stood up and apparated out of the cell. For one such as I who can choose to be wherever he wants to be. Then he was back in the cell and sat back down. You can prove it? Loki asked with a glimmer of hope in his eyes. You'd have to finish the demonstration. I have the means to save my life, but the wound would be an inconvenience for the rest of my existence. Harry offered freely. And what assurance do I have that you would not have my wounds stay on me forever as well? Loki asked with narrowed eyes. You don't, but you've seen the magic on the contract, and know it can be destroyed easily, simply by destroying the paper, Harry said. Loki considered this. With a growl he signed the contract. Harry Potter, he winced, as there was a gash suddenly in his own hand. He tried to counter it, but it kept on reforming. When he looked up he saw Harry suddenly had the contract. A blank piece of paper in his own. So you do intend to torment me, he said angrily, only to be amazed as Harry deliberately ripped the contract in two. Harry twitched a finger and healed both of their hands. Loki inspected his hand and felt no traces of magic left. Why? He asked. Like I said, it was a demonstration of the effectiveness of this magic, Harry said as he produced another paper and handed it over. This one was less simple. It stated that any knowledge they give the other could only be discussed with their permission with anyone outside of the contract, and could only allow two to sign. Lies would also apply the penalty clause. The penalty this time would be the information itself. Loki inspected the magic. It would do exactly as the contract stated. And you would sign this and answer any question honestly? Loki asked skeptically. I will, but the contract does not compel us to answer. Only not lie or give the information out without permission, Harry said. He summoned the contract and signed it without fear. Handing it back he smiled. Wouldn't you love to give me information, Odin? Would like to hear only to have me unable to tell him, he asked. Loki thought about it. He saw no downsides and signed the contract. Harry did not take it from him this time. Why do this when you gain nothing from it for the All-Father? He asked. I'm doing this for him. The information is of secondary concern to him, Harry said simply. Loki looked at the contract. Nothing had happened. Harry's name was still there in black. What could possibly be his primary concern? He scoffed. Your safety and happiness, Harry said again easily. Loki double-checked the paper, then scoffed. All that proves is that you believe what you are saying, not that it is the truth. I can prove it is the truth, Harry said. Loki did not believe him, but the contract would not lie. How could you possibly prove such an obvious delusion? I have a device for it, Harry said. And will you fetch your device and show it to me? Loki asked, intrigued. Harry reached into his pocket, took out his pensieve and unshrunk it. This is the only one of its kind in existence in this reality. I show it to you freely, in the hopes that you will trust me with the next part. I did not have to bring it or speak the truth, but you can see on the contract that I did not lie. Since you have yet to reveal anything to me and you have the only copy of the contract, there is no reason besides helping you that I can achieve from this. Loki looked at him skeptically. I believe that you believe that. How does this work? He said, looking at the bull. I take a memory that you focus on from your mind, and you may relive it. Then after the demonstration, I will show you a memory I have. Tat for tat is what they call it on Midgard, Harry said. If you will allow me, he then asked. I presume you want a memory of where I was in my time after the fall? Loki asked, thinking he had figured it out. A part of him really wanted to smash the artifact against a wall. It would be delicious to destroy it and see the man's heartbroken expression. You presume incorrectly. If I am to help you, I need some trust. So I will tell you that I did not need to ask you nicely. I have ways by which I could compel the information from you. Instead, I want you to freely offer a memory that only you will watch. I will stay out of it and leave it to you to decide if the device works as I've described. Harry said honestly. The process was tedious, but he had no choice. He needed Loki to believe him. Everything hinged on it. And you will let me experience it again, while you, What? Ravage my mind in an artifact I don't know or understand. Do you think me a fool? He asked. Harry sighed. You know that I am not lying. You are hoping that I give you something for nothing. My patience is running thin and I will not be treated like this much longer. I offered this to you for free. Your freedom hinges on the fact that you show me some trust, he said. Loki looked at the contract again just to be sure. Very well. How do I do this? He asked. Think of a memory you would like to relive and I will extract it by placing my finger on your temple and extracting it. I will then place it in the device. When I'm done, you merely need to touch the memory to enter the pensieve and relive it, Harry said. Without saying a word, Loki closed his eyes and said, Okay, I'm ready. Harry extracted the memory and placed it in the pensieve. Loki looked at it and placed his index finger in it, as if testing its temperature. His face went blank as he was drawn into the memory for a minute. Then he came back. I will admit that that is a useful device, and precious. I would not destroy it, even if it would satisfy me to see the look in your eyes. Loki admitted begrudgingly. Thank you, Harry said solemnly. It is precious to me and holds many memories for me, if you'll excuse the blatant double meaning. He chuckled. Now, do you believe that this device shows the true memory of a person, and that I cannot lie to you? I cannot argue the fact, though I am still trying to understand how you would use this to try and save my soul, Loki said, but without the normal bitterness. Harry looked at him sharply and said, I am about to tell you something you will not believe, so I will follow it up with a memory to prove it. I will request that you watch the contract and see if I am lying to you, he said. At first you will think I merely believe what I am saying, and then you will be shown the truth. Do you agree to try and bear with it until that time? I will listen, Loki said non-committally. Okay. That is all that I ask, Harry said, and then he began. He told him of Odin's request for help, and the options he considered. He told him of the meeting he had with Odin and Frigga right before coming to the dungeon, and that Odin did not know what he would offer, that he had given Harry full permission to decide his fate. He also told him of his parents' abiding love for him even now. That cannot be true, Loki said, looking at the contract and then Harry. Once again you prove your naivety. You cannot expect me to believe what you say, Loki said. Watch out, that was almost a lie. I can see you are getting angry with me. Why get angry if some part of you didn't want to believe what I said? Harry asked. Prove it then, Loki demanded. Okay, Harry shrugged. He took his finger to his temple and withdrew the memory of the meeting. When he had it deposited, he went in with Loki, this time, to gauge his reactions. Loki was intrigued at first, and nodded at Harry's statement that Odin may not know the truth, otherwise he would not believe it was offered without consequences. He looked shocked at Odin's admission that he would give his life for Loki, who he loved as he did Thor and Frigga, and he looked ashamed when his mother said that she thought she had lost his trust. When the memory ended, Loki did not meet his eye. You have proven yourself to me, wizard, and I have much to think about. There is one last matter to attend, Harry said as he took one last contract from his pocket. This contract holds the reins to your freedom. If you sign it, you will be reinstated as a prince of Asgard. You will have made a promise to never try to usurp power from your brother or father or that of any realm. You will not be forced to take any action, good or evil, in anyone's service, and you will be free to make your own choices again, so long as you promise to not do harm. You may defend yourself, those you care for, and any realm of your choosing, as long as it is against tyrannical rule, or attempts to overthrow that would lead to massive loss of life. Basically, it means you'll try to be a good son and brother and do what is right, and bring honor to your family, Harry said. Loki looked shocked. This is unexpected. You do not wish me to serve under anyone. Just be a good son and brother. Defend my people, he asked. Basically, it doesn't even force you to tell us who sent you to Midgard. I'm hoping you'll want to do that on your own at some point, Harry said finally. Loki just looked at him, a bit of respect in his eyes. You are a strange man, but you seem to have a kind heart. To do all this while it does not even benefit you. It is naive, but respectable. What are you talking about? This is completely selfish. I want my friends Odin and Frigga to be happy. That would make me happy, Harry said flippantly, then smiled. I can see you love your mother and you believe your father's claim that he loves you. I suggest that you think about what you've been offered. See if you can live with being a good prince. Harry then smirked. You'll note the contract states nothing about your tricks and nature being suppressed. As long as it is in good fun and not harmful, You'll be allowed to go back to being the trickster god, Harry said. Then he paused. What? Loki asked, having spotted his hesitation. My father and his friends at school considered themselves pranksters. They even claimed to do some of them in the name of the prankster god Loki, their patron. Harry smiled. I followed their tradition to a degree. I never said I had a patron, for example. He then looked at Loki. I'm actually quite good at it, and if my calculations are correct, I've got 2 on you at this point. Guess I'm just better. Harry smirked. Loki smirked right back. Oh, we'll have to see about that then, won't we? Harry smiled. That's better, he thought. He picked up his pensieve and banished his conjured chair. I'll just be on my way then. As he made to cancel his privacy spells, Loki said, Wait. Harry looked at him and made eye contact. Thanos, he said. Thanos sent me to Midgard. He picked up the secrecy honesty contract, showed it to Harry, who noted it was unbroken, and then tore it in 2. Harry nodded at him. Thank you, he said, and left. When Harry got to the waiting room, he was engulfed in a hug from Queen Frigga. Thank you, she said, as tears fell from her eyes. Thank you for trying to give him back to us. You cannot understand the anguish his absence has caused us. It was no trouble, Harry said humbly. When Frigga let him go, he was grasped by the forearm by Odin, and pulled into a manly one-armed hug. When Odin released him, he said, Your wisdom astounds me even now. He was smiling broadly, and Harry could swear he saw a twinkle in his eye that was never there before. Then Odin asked with hope and some trepidation, Was he receptive? He heard your words, and I believe he heard them as you meant them for the first time in a long time. Harry said honestly. And the final contract? Odin asked. He was so happy that Harry was able to do for him what before was not achievable. I left it in his hands. I asked him to think about it, Harry said. And then I may have challenged him to a prank war as incentive. He smiled. It had been a good while since he had one of those. One with the god of trickery might be more fun than he could handle. Small price to pay for the happiness he saw in Odin and Frigga's eyes. Odin outright laughed. You may have done yourself a disservice. He will not stop now that he has permission. Nah, I'll be okay. After all, I'm already 2 up on him. Harry smirked. Did you tell him that? Frigga asked, slight concern on her eyes. But the happiness still brimmed her eyes with joyful tears. I may have, Harry said. We will have to have you guarded when you come to visit Asgard. Loki will no doubt be planning his tricks well in advance, Odin said, with a smile in his eyes. You have done well. If he signs the contract, Harry reminded them. Oh, I'm sure he will just as soon as his plans are complete. Right now he's in a safe space and believes himself untouchable so that he can plan. Odin said with confidence. He might be safe in the cell, but once he steps out of it and his skin and hair turn bright pink and purple for 10 minutes, I'll be up another one on him. Harry smirked a devilish smile. Odin and Frigga looked at him dumbfounded and started laughing again. When they calmed somewhat, Odin said, You were right in your estimation that I cannot bestow any further titles on you, so I'll have to once again think of how to repay you for your service to the realm. There really is no need. If he signs that contract, it will benefit our realm. He will not be able to attack it again. So it served my purposes as well, Harry said earnestly. Always so modest. I swear if Natasha wasn't your intended, I'd have you married in the next hour to 10 maidens. We could do with more of your kind in our realm, Frigga said fervently. And that's our cue, Harry said, holding a hand out to Natasha. See you in a couple of years, he yelled as he portkeyed them away. That man will one day have to stop running from me, Frigga said in mock anger and then hugged Odin. Oh, husband, how can we ever repay him? She asked with tears in her eyes again. We cannot. He has done too much for us to ever repay. When Loki decides to join us again, I will have to apologize to him. At Frigga's confused look, he explained. Harry informed me of the cause of his drift from us. It seems I never showed him how proud I was of him, of the man he has become. Thor received all the glory, but never did we acknowledge that it was Loki's plans that often lead to Thor's successes, or his understanding and quick thought that saved many lives. We'll have to remedy that. We cannot afford to lose him again. I will not allow him to stray from us again, Frigga promised. I agree. We must try not to thank Harry overmuch either. We must remember it will be Loki's choice that brings him back to us. We cannot make him think we are more grateful to Harry than him for his choice. Odin said thoughtfully. But I will thank him in my heart always, Frigga said. Then she had an idea which split her face with a wonderful smile. Odin had noticed it. What are you thinking, wife? Frigga looked at him. What do you think about adopting a new son? Odin's own smile was, just slightly, predatory. I think we can make space at the family table for one or two more. It had been a couple of months since the unveiling of the Potter Innovations technology, and the whole world had been celebrating. A whole time slot of many news channels was dedicated to report the constantly growing sphere of support that happened wherever distribution centers were set up. People were declaring him a saint in some countries and a terrorist in others. The latter, however, were mostly due to how the people needed less support from their own corrupt governments. There was talk of Nobel Prizes, and people everywhere were asking, who is Harry Potter, and how do these devices work? But nobody could find anything on him, besides the backstory S.H.I.E.L.D. had carefully crafted for him. That information pointed at government contracts and private research, so nobody could even guess as to his specialities or fields of expertise. Where the devices were taken by governments, a warning was delivered to the people stating that any further removals would result in a cessation of support. Tony had started placing trackers in the PMGs, and when they were taken, Harry would return them to their proper places. That was not an easy pill to swallow, but the governments in question would never release the information that their most secure facilities had been so easily breached. Harry had reported that Loki had been manipulated by a certain mad titan to both Odin and Fury. He had gotten what scant details he could and given the information to Fury. There was nothing they could do about it now, but Fury was already considering options. He had been trying to make contact with the people of Wakanda. There was, according to rumor, a wonderful metal being mined in their lands, which might hold the key to capturing the unkillable. One day at breakfast, Natasha looked up from a paper and smirked. What did you find? Bruce asked, having been the first to notice. Apparently I'm dating the most eligible bachelor in the world, she said, looking at Harry. Harry moaned, not again. If you wanted less acclaim, you should not have helped all those people, or perhaps let friend Tony take the credit. Sif said. That would have raised more questions than they wanted. Natasha said, people know Tony's specialities and history. They would have expected some other motivations. The reason they had the press conference was to save Tony from suspicion. With Harry as an unknown entity, nobody had reason to suspect him, and what he told the press was to make sure wild speculation did not go rampant. If enough people believed that something bad was going on, the governments of the world might have banned the technology. We needed them to let the people benefit from it until they could not take them away without harsh consequences, Bruce explained. As things stand, if they decided today to remove or close the distribution centers, any government doing so would guarantee their own downfall. Natasha finished. And since none of them can provide the same service, and it was given for free, there really is no argument against the help he is providing. Technically, he is enriching any continent he helps. The people are happier, healthier, and more capable. So he is becoming more popular than the governments, and they cannot deny him because he is strengthening them, Sif asked. Precisely, Natasha said. That wasn't my intent, though. I just wanted to help, Harry said uncomfortably. That's not the point. If any of those governments could find anything harmful, they would use that as an excuse to start a witch hunt. We need to play their game to beat them before they get the chance to attack you, Bruce said. He knew how ruthless governments could be to get what they want. Pretty soon they'll start coming up with allegations and try to drag you to court to reveal your technology, since obviously it must be stolen from somewhere. We must have the support of the people so that it would become unthinkable for them to take any measures against you, Natasha said. Tony's had to deal with similar situations. Why is it always politics? I hate politics, Harry stated emphatically, putting his fork down, having lost his appetite. Eat your breakfast, soldier. Steve spoke up with a hint of a smile. We're training this morning and I need you at full capacity. We're upping the difficulty and Logan will be joining us for once. Just then Logan appeared through the door. Yeah, you don't want me to take care of all the enemies, do you? I've been interested in seeing your version of a danger room anyway, he said. Good, because you are setting up the scenario for us. Steve smirked. Show us all the skills you learned being a teacher at that school. You sure you can handle it? Logan asked with a vindictive smile. They did think they could handle it, but once they entered the war zone with giant robots that could absorb energy and powerful mutants with their abilities, they soon found that without Harry instantly incapacitating things, they were not trained for this kind of scenario. Logan was laughing as he happily decapitated a distracted Magneto, who had been focusing on keeping Harry busy by sending wave after wave of metallic shards at him. Steve was struggling with Juggernaut, as he seemed mostly impervious to any attacks and tried to run him down. Natasha and Clint were having more success by shooting any enemy that they could find in the head. For training that was fine, but they'd have to work on ways to incapacitate rather than kill. They weren't assassins and murderers after all. Not anymore. Tony was blasting anything he could find with his repulsors and rockets. These mutants were violent and strong. Their powers varied so much that you could not focus on just one, without another teleporting or spraying or screaming in such a way as to distract, damage, and knock you out. Hulk was having fun though. Nothing stood in his path for long. The dead and dying were littered around where he stood and fought, before he started focusing on the giant robots. When the session was complete, they walked out of the room in various states of damage and disrepair, with a newfound respect for Logan. You just kept going. Not once did I see you go down without you being up again less than a second later, taking on a new enemy, Bruce was saying, having not needed to put his clothes back on now that Harry had enchanted them to do so themselves. He had at first tried to make them shrink and grow, but Hulk disliked the feel of clothing on him. I've been in battles almost as bad as that one, but I must admit this room of yours definitely outdoes the danger room, especially because it gave me exactly what I was looking for. Logan said impressed. I'll have to join more. I think, next time, we'll stick with Steve's scenarios. They are more staged, maybe, but he at least has a plan except for random chaos. Tony said as he sadly studied his damaged armor. This will take forever to fix. A real fight is never staged. Chaos is the only thing you can count on, and change, the only constant. Logan said. The X-Men did not go to war. We went into fights. We were rescuing innocents and stopping people crazy on their own power. Sometimes they didn't even have a choice. So while Rogers teaches you about strategy and teamwork for war, I be taking you into fights. This last one was to show you how bad it could be. Next time we'll be saving innocents and then you'll see how difficult it can actually get. This was still child's play in comparison to that. Harry will need to help us equip better then. I don't want to train myself into killing people like I had to just now, Natasha said. Clint was nodding along with her. If my wife saw what we just did, she'd never look at me the same way again. I don't see a problem with that. I'll see what I can come up with. This scenario taught me a valuable lesson too. I need a way to bring down opponents that can resist direct magic. Those robot things. Were they imagined or do things like them actually exist? Harry asked Logan. Oh, they exist. I've had to fight a couple of them in my time with the X-Men, Logan said. Who made them? Harry asked incredulously. Who else? The government, Logan shrugged. They were made specifically to focus on identifying, hunting down, and exterminating mutants. We'll have to put a stop to that. Maybe Fury can point us in a direction? Harry asked Natasha. I'm on it, she said with a nod and left to go make a call. Harry had healed and fixed what he could, but decided that he'd take a break for the rest of the day. Natasha and he could go for a swim at the beach house. It was around mid-afternoon. When Harry felt his mirror activate, he got off the towel where he was sunbathing next to Natasha. She was doing so topless in her never-ending quest to get him used to her undressed in his presence. He had obviously cast some spells just in case they got a surprise visit, but he rather enjoyed the view and she enjoyed the attention. He was back in the house before he answered. Harry here, he said. Greetings, Harry, Thor said. We have glorious news. We are hosting a feast tonight, to celebrate Loki returning to Asgard and being reinstated. You are expected to be there as the one who facilitated his return to us, Thor said. Hello, Thor. I will speak to Natasha and ask if she had anything else planned for us, Harry said with a smile. Please do not make me have Heimdall take you by force, Thor joked back. You wouldn't, Harry exclaimed. He was happy Thor seemed so excited. Oh, I would, but only to beat father to Heimdall. To request it, he said with a laugh. And the fact that he is listening to this conversation means you already did, Harry smirked. I suppose it does, doesn't it? Thor chuckled. I'll see you in 4 hours, bro. he said with a mysterious smirk. Thor had not used such slang with him before. For some reason it didn't sit well with him. Harry didn't like it. They were planning something. Harry was about to ask him about it, when Thor ended the connection. Harry shook himself and decided to put it behind him, for now. He walked back out to the pool to see Natasha laying on her front now. The view was just as good. Harry decided that he'd have to spend some of his nervous energy before they go to Asgard, and he knew exactly how he intended to do so. "We were just invited to Asgard for the reinstatement of Loki," he said as he sat down next to Natasha, somehow keeping his eyes off her wonderful legs. "Oh, that was quick. It's only been a couple of days. Do you think he'll behave?" Natasha said as she got up on her elbows, trying to distract him just a bit. She loved his reactions to her tempting him. Harry was sorely tempted to stop the conversation, and decided to let himself be distracted, but only after he said, "We have 4 hours. Then he levitated her up and took her into his arms. It was just before the 4 hours were up that they arrived in Asgard. Harry had quickly dressed and went to Bruce to pick something up he had commissioned. Natasha had just enough time to get ready, and her smile looked like it would never come off her face. Harry had tried something new and it made her knees buckle just to think about it. She wasn't certain if she could withhold from jumping him the moment they were alone again. At the peak of their passions, he could have asked her anything, and she didn't think she'd be strong enough to resist saying yes instantly. "Do you need a calming draft?" Harry asked with a smile of his own, seemingly surgically attached. "No, I need this feast over with, so we can continue where we left off." "How did you even do that?" "I don't think it should be physically possible," she asked, awed. "I did some reading in the restricted section recently and stumbled on a book I hadn't know was there," Harry replied. The book had a nondescript name that was supposedly about dark magics, but on the inside was what could only be called How to Please Your Witch. He didn't even know if he could pull some of the stuff in there off. "The spell I used was one of the easier ones described to pull off." Natasha almost moaned. Then she whispered, with a hungry look in her eyes, "There's more?" "A lot more. I might need to train to pull some of it off, though," Harry said, imagining some of the things in there. "I'll be your training partner," she exclaimed instantly. "I wouldn't want you to hurt yourself." Then, on pure impulse, she pressed him against the door and kissed his brains out with a searing kiss. "But first, we're finishing what we started earlier today. The moment we get home." Harry had to take some time to calm down. Before they left the room, Harry cast a charm to freshen them up. When they exited, they were met by a serving girl. She looked embarrassed and blushed heavily. She quickly righted herself and said, "You are expected in the throne room." Then she led them there. Every now and then she would glance first at Harry and then Natasha, as if she wondered if she could take her. Harry didn't know it yet, but rumor of his prowess had just gained a new legend. When they arrived, they were shown directly in, but this time they were told to go directly up the dais. The hall was empty, and Odin, Frigga, Thor, and Loki were seated upon thrones. Thor next to the king, Loki next to the queen. This was not customarily how it was done as far as Harry's experiences went. Harry, welcome back," Odin said as he got up and clasped forearms with Harry, clapping him warmly on the shoulder. "It is always a pleasure to visit my friends in Asgard, King Odin." Harry then turned to Frigga and hugged her warmly. Queen Frigga. Natasha was hugged by Odin and then Frigga as well. "There's something going on here," Frigga said. She looked between Harry and Natasha. "What happened?" Natasha blushed like a schoolgirl and leaned in to whisper to her, "I'll tell you a bit later, Queen Frigga. It is of an intimate nature." "I will hear all of it as soon as we can talk privately," Frigga announced with a smile. From her perspective, the connection between Natasha and Harry seemed to be working to constantly want to draw them to one another, much more strongly than before. "We finally have a surprise for our wizard," Odin said. "We will wait for the people to arrive before we make an announcement, though, much like you do with most of your surprises," he said, with a twinkle in his eyes. Harry smiled at the king. Anything that can make him happy and didn't scream surprise wedding was fine by Harry. "I shall wait before delivering my surprise to you then." Harry smirked. "Again, why can you not show up and not give us gifts?" Odin exclaimed. "If you prefer, I would not detract from your surprise and keep mine to myself," Harry said with a smile and a gleam in his eyes. "Let us not be hasty now," Frigga said. She loved every one of Harry's surprises to date. "We can accommodate at least one more surprise, surely?" she asked of Odin. Odin seemed to think about it. "As you wish, my queen. But I dare say, Ours shall trump yours this day, he exclaimed triumphantly. We shall see, Harry said mysteriously. Next to him Natasha smiled, knowingly. She thought she knew who was going to win this contest of gifts. They were given chairs on the dais and soon the people started flowing in. Some showed surprise at seeing Loki on the dais, but quickly hid it before they bowed to the king and queen, before they left to their positions. Once everybody was seated, Odin stood up. Greetings, my people of Asgard. I'm sure many of you have noticed the faces on the dais. At this there was a stirring, but none spoke. I know some of you wonder how it is that Prince Loki has been restored to his position in the realm. For you to understand, I will simply say that our council, Lord Harry of Midgard, has performed one of his wonders and made it possible for us to finally put aside our differences, and has given us the strongest way imaginable to be certain of Loki's loyalty to the realm. There were gasps as people looked at Harry, and he nodded somberly. It is true, and as with everything Lord Harry does, he did it in such a way that it cannot be doubted. He paused for the scattered applause that filled the hall for a moment, as people's trust in Harry showed in their faces. Yes, we are grateful to Lord Harry once more, but more importantly, Prince Loki had to make the choice to come back to us. Lord Harry gave him the opportunity, but he is the one who made the decision of his own free will. For that I ask that everybody stand and honor the returned prince. Everybody in the hall got up and bowed. Even Harry and Natasha bowed deeply to Loki, to show their support of his decision. Loki was dumbstruck. Never before had he been so honored. Never had he thought the wizard and his lady would show him such support. He noticed that when they bowed deeply, many others in the hall followed suit. Even the Lady Sif, who had returned for the event, had bowed lower following their example. Loki smiled as he was deeply touched. Thank you. You may be seated, Odin said after a couple of seconds passed. When everybody was seated, Odin continued, We are happy to welcome our son home, and we give thanks to the one who facilitated it. Lord Harry. He paused and looked at Frigga, who stood up and joined him. Not many of you know this, but Lord Harry has had a troubled life. When he was but a mere babe, his parents, magical warriors in their own rights, fought to protect him against a great evil. They died in the banishing of this foul creature. For this I thank them, for if they had not, he would not be here with us today to bring us such joy. That is not the end of the tale, though. When he was found after their deaths, he was placed with relatives to care for and protect him, but they did not. Lord Harry was made to serve them as a slave, for they hated his gifts in the arts. He would not want me to tell you this, so please do not ask him, but there is reason I give voice to something he feels great shame for. When he was able to leave to study the arts, he did so and returned once a year to protect them from the followers of the Dark One that slew his parents. For this, we believe, is one of his defining traits. He protects those that cannot protect themselves. When he lost his parents and he was made to endure a torturous existence, he never stopped giving of himself freely, so that others might not suffer the same fate. He has never known the love of a parent since, so the Queen and I have decided to provide him with that which he so greatly deserves. A family. We have decided to adopt Lord Harry James Potter of Midgard to be his new family. Please rise and greet your new prince. Prince Harry James Potter of Asgard, he roared. Before anyone could react, there was a flash of fire and Fox floated right above the dais, singing a song of courage and welcome. There was an upheaval of sound as all those in the hall jumped up and cheered at the top of their lungs in approval as Harry sat there unbelievingly as he was given his first ever loving family. He did not notice his own tears until Frigga walked up to him and took him into a crushing hug. You are now part of our family and you will never be without a home full of love and support. As she said this, she wiped first at her own tears and then she looked at him and wiped his away with a thumb. Dry your eyes, you are now a prince of the realm and need to present yourself as such. She smiled at him. Harry was speechless. He could never have dreamed of such a thing. Try as he might, the tears never stopped flowing. Not until Natasha got up and hugged him. You have always been a prince. Now you just have the family to go with it. A jock for an eldest brother and a prankster for an older brother. Now stop crying or I will have to put off the celebration that we'd be having in your royal bedchambers later, she said with a saucy wink. That did it. Once Harry's mind registered her words, his thoughts were finally where they were meant to be, in the gutter. His tears finally stopped as a laugh escaped his suddenly parched throat. Thanks, he whispered in her ear. No problem, my prince. She winked at him. Harry conjured a glass and filled it with water, so he wouldn't croak as he spoke. He stepped up to where Odin stood. I never imagined that you would do such a thing for me. It is the most wonderful surprise I could imagine. Shocking the guests in the hall, he grabbed Odin in a hug. The one he received back was powerful, reminding him of the strength of the old man. You are welcome, my son, Odin said heartily. Harry squared his shoulders and turned to the people. Thank you for accepting me so wholeheartedly. You have made this occasion even better. Harry paused for a moment, and then he smiled. It is my turn to tell a tale. The hall went quiet as everybody sat back down and gave him their attention. When I was a boy, no older than 14, I found out that my parents had wanted me to be adopted by one of their close friends. But fate was cruel and we were separated by the machinations of one of the Dark One's followers, before I even knew about him. Many years later, when I found out about this man, he was on the run from the law for a crime he did not commit. I spent my next holiday with him and I had only a scant few years with him before he was taken away from me forever. While he was defending me in battle, there were nods of approval. I found out years later that he had wanted to adopt me into his family to carry on his line. He paused again. You may ask how I would carry on his line if I am not his true heir. There were more nods this time. The answer is he reached into his pocket and pulled out a vial. With this, he finished. This is a potion used by people who, for whatever reason, could not conceive a child of their own, but would like to pass their gifts and traits on to the next generation. It is called a blood adoption potion. When I heard of Loki's adoption and his refusal to admit his parentage, luckily now not an issue anymore, I commissioned this made by a good friend of mine, who I instructed in the art of potion brewing. He is a genius of great skill and intelligence, and has since far surpassed my own skill by a wide margin, Harry said. Harry then held the potion out to Odin. A gift to you, King Odin. May it knit your family closer together as Loki becomes your true, blood-related son. Odin was speechless as he took the potion from Harry. Frigga walked up to him and hugged him again. You truly are a marvel. I am so proud to call you my son. Odin seemed to pull himself together. You told me that you had a surprise for me, and I boasted that yours could not be as great as mine. I have never been so happy to say that I was wrong. Odin cheered, and the crowd followed suit. I am happy that we became friends and even more proud to call you my son. Thank you, King Odin. I feel the same, Harry said. He did not feel ready to call him father just yet. It was still too new. Odin seemed to understand and didn't press it. Harry then whispered to him, I would make it clear that the potion will be used for Loki, if he wants it, and that you hold the blood adoption as a separate private ceremony. This is a family matter. Odin nodded then and said loudly, Truly you have never brought us a more precious gift, and it will be used to finally bring the question of my son's legitimacy to an end. He looked over at said son. Loki, come forth. He beckoned. When Loki got up and walked to them, shock clearly written on his face at Odin's instant willingness to accept him, Odin asked, Will you accept this potion and become my and your mother's son in blood? Loki took a moment and looked at the potion in awe. If you will have me, he said in a slightly broken voice, as something in him finally broke and he was able to see this man as his father, for the first time in many years. I will have you, my son, and I will keep you, and you will be as you always were, my beloved son. Odin then hugged Loki and Harry could see a tear running down Loki's cheek. Odin let go of him and turned to his people. Rejoice, for the princes of Asgard have all come home. The wonder of the moment was instantly broken as the biggest applause and yells of approval yet broke from the crowd. People were stomping their feet and slapping on tables and lifting their voices to the sky, for the world to hear. Asgard was finally whole. At the Bifrost, Heimdall smiled as the voices could be heard clearly all the way from the citadel. Not that he needed the voices to carry that far, but he lifted his own head and crowed along with them, clapping his hands. Soon the feast was underway and Harry was seated at the table next to Loki. Natasha on his other side. Loki turned to him. You have gotten me yet again. I did not think you could affect me so, ever again. But here I stand with only you to thank for allowing me my family. You will make a worthy apprentice as a trickster, he joked. No, Thor said fervently from the other side. He is my brother too, and I am his favorite. He shall be a mighty warrior. I shall teach him myself, and none will stand against us. Odin chuckled. You are both wrong, my sons. Harry has already started his apprenticeship under me in the Asgardian magics, he said proudly. And he has much to learn from me as well. As his parents, we get him first. Besides, he is already a worthy trickster, and he is yet to fail when facing an opponent in battle. He can learn from us first and best, Frigga said. But mother, Thor and Loki said in unison. No buts. He is closer to making me a grandmother than either of you. As such, he is entitled to some liberties. He will choose his own path and we will support him much as we supported you, Frigga said sternly. Now, if you'll excuse us, I'm going to have a talk with my future daughter-in-law in private, Frigga said as she got up. Natasha winked at Harry and followed Frigga to a secluded corner. What are they discussing, Harry? Odin asked, a smile on his face. Do you really want to know? Harry asked with a wince. We're family now. You can trust us, can't you? Loki said with a smirk. Well, if you must know, Harry waved a hand and the sounds of the hall faded as he blocked anyone else from hearing. Keep this to yourselves, okay? Harry pleaded. At their nods he said, I found a book on sex magic. We tried one of the spells out today, and let's just say, we almost didn't come. No pun intended if Natasha's reaction is anything to go by. The king and princes gaped at him and looked to where Natasha was sitting and talking with the queen. She was blushing, and it seemed like her breathing was slightly labored, like she was both embarrassed and excited all at the same time. When they looked back at Harry, he shrugged. Brother, you would let your favorite brother read that book, won't you? Thor said with a winning smile. You don't have the skill required to cast the simplest of spells. He'll let me read it. I at least have a chance of emulating his magic, Loki said confidently. Meanwhile, Odin was watching his wife's reaction. When she started fanning her face while Natasha spoke, he cleared his throat. I think it would be best if I examined this book first. I must be certain you don't follow any strange advice. What if one of the spells is a trap meant for those of lesser, experience? Odin said wisely and magnanimously. You can all wait your turn, Harry exclaimed. I'm the more experienced spellcaster. Once I've been over the book, I'm certain one of you will be more worthy than the rest to read it, Harry joked. Harry, Odin said, with mock indignation. Fine, I'll let you read it next, but I get to choose who it goes to after that. It is my book, Harry pouted. You show your wisdom once more, Odin said with a smile. He looked over and saw the queen looking at them. Quickly, cancel the spell. We don't want your mother to think we're up to something, he said urgently. Harry canceled the privacy spell and laughed. That actually felt familial. He still couldn't believe it. He had a family, and they were already vying for his attention, even if it is for a book on sex magic. He also noted the downcast looks on both the siblings' faces. He leaned over slightly so only Loki could hear. I may have forgotten to say that I have a spell that can copy the book. Who knows what could happen to such a copy, especially if the one that finds it can keep it to himself. Loki kept his face impassive in the way only a prankster up to something could. You should have been my apprentice. You could go so far. Harry thought he detected a tone of respect in his voice, but with Loki you never knew. As the evening progressed, Thor, Loki, and Harry all mingled. Sif was telling the warriors 3 of her time on Midgard. Fandral sounded impressed with her work with magical creatures. She may or may not have mentioned her lover back on Midgard on 1 or 5 occasions. Everybody that looked at her noted that Midgard seemed to do her some good. Loki was surprised by the warm welcomes that he was receiving. When he asked after it, he was told of the wonders Harry had done for the kingdom, the trust people had in him, the strength of his lady Natasha, and the joy he had brought to the king and queen. Loki was impressed. Strangely, he never felt any jealousy, and actually found himself slightly proud of his new sibling. He would have to show him some useful tricks sometime. Once the prank war was over anyway, he had had to promise not to do anything this evening to his mother, but after today, all bets were off. Thor was telling stories of Harry's exploits on Earth. When people asked about him, he was already proud of the good he was doing for Midgard, and couldn't be happier that he was now the eldest brother of 2 siblings. The people were impressed with Harry's efforts, and their respect for him only grew with the fervor Thor spoke of his accomplishments. Harry was receiving some strange looks from both the male and female population. Had he known that a certain female servant had already been telling stories, he might have been embarrassed. It did not take Loki long to find him, once he found out. I hear we've established a new religion in Asgard. he said conversationally, as he walked up. Oh? Harry asked. Apparently the newest prince of Asgard is now being hailed as the god of sex, he said with a smirk. Oh no, Harry said as he paled. Oh yes. Apparently a certain chambermaid heard a part of a very interesting conversation from inside your chambers. Something about driving a woman to ecstasy for many hours, and then being begged for more? Was that really one of the easier skills to learn? Loki smiled. You should learn to apply your privacy spells before such intimate moments, brother. We do not want the whole castle to hear you at your divine work. Natasha is going to kill me when this comes out. Harry said in a cold sweat. Oh, I doubt it. Apparently everyone is jealous of her for being able to experience your first miracles. This time he actually laughed as Harry blushed. That's 4 for you and 1 for me, he said victoriously. This isn't something to joke about, Harry insisted. When you enter a war of tricks with the trickster god, you will soon find out there is no such thing as a safe topic. Loki smirked again. Is that so? Harry asked with a smile of his own. Are you sure you want to do this? I have many resources to tap and thousands of years of studies going into my kind of magic at my disposal. I seem to recall a permanent sex change charm. Maybe Frigga always wanted a daughter. I wouldn't mind a sister, mind you. Then I could defend your honor when men treat you badly and break your heart. You wouldn't, Loki asked as he flushed. When you enter a prank war with a wizard, not even sex changes are off the table, Harry said. How did you put it? No such thing as a safe topic. You have a valid point. Perhaps some rules to this war then, Loki offered. I'm listening, Harry said. Nothing permanent, Loki made the first rule. No affecting outside parties. This stays between us, Harry countered. Nothing publicly humiliating, Loki asked. No deal on that one. What is the fun in a prank if you don't have an audience? Harry asked. Good point. What about no pranking if you were the last one to attempt? Loki offered. Sounds fair. I wouldn't want to break your spirit in one day, Harry thought. Okay, last rules. We can decide together to cease hostilities for a set period of time, should an occasion call for it or warrant it, and we can modify the rules should we both agree to it, he finished. We have an accord, Loki said, offering his hand. Deal, Harry said. May the best me win, he smiled. Oh, you'll win when I allow you to, Loki rebutted. The rest of the evening went off without a hitch. Natasha soon joined him and laughed when Loki told her of the rumor he had heard. He may not be a god, but he is one in the bed, she said as she held onto his arm. You should let him teach you his modified tickling charm. It's miraculous, she teased. Oh? So the god of sex has been inventing his own magics for the art. You will go far, Loki said it loudly, and many people stopped when they heard it, only to start whispering more urgently with their companions. Oh, you're good, but 2 can play at that game, Harry said with a wave of his hand. Natasha kept her face impassive as Loki's black hair turned blonde and got a perm. Harry locked another charm in as an enchantment, only he'd be able to remove it. You wanted to start now? Now we've started. Then he and Natasha walked away to go get something to eat. Loki hadn't felt his hair change, but he did feel the magic. He looked around him to see if anything on him had changed, but found nothing. Only when people started laughing did he look at a reflection. He tried dispelling it with no change. Then he flushed his own power into his hair and it changed color to bright pink. More people were laughing now. Soon Harry received a look from Frigga, and he cancelled the spells. What? He started it, he said defensively. Frigga just sighed, but a small smile tugged at her lips. When Loki walked up to him, Harry offered, Shall we cease the war until your adoption ceremony, or did you want to go to it as a duck or speaking only in a German accent? Harry asked. Loki seemed to consider it, but then nodded, and it is my turn to return fire once we're done. Fair enough, Harry said, and they shook hands one more time. You've formalized it? Frigga asked. We thought it was the civilized thing to do, Loki said. After all, it's all in the name of entertainment. Mine, he smirked. Oh, you wish, Harry scoffed. I'll have you begging for mercy by the end of the month. Loki turned to his mother. Thank you for adopting him. He's going to be good to practice on, he smirked. Boys, she sighed. You've not been family for a day, and you're already fighting like you've had a rivalry for years. If you ask me, it's the middle child syndrome, not the doted-on youngest, nor the respected eldest. Harry stated, affecting a wise old man voice and making his face and hair look old as he once had. You may be right, Odin interjected with a chuckle as he sat down. Then he winked at Loki. Harry tried to change back, but found his face stayed the same. He looked up at Odin incredulously. Didn't anyone ever tell you not to pull a face, that it might stay that way? He laughed. You want in on this? I can take both of you, old man. Harry mocked playfully. Then he placed a glamour on top of Odin's glamour to make himself look normal. Don't forget, I've handled multiple pranksters in the past. He flicked a finger and made Odin look like himself. I've even handled twins. Frigga burst out laughing. Please don't. I don't think I'd survive the laughter. 2 pranksters are enough, she said, as she wiped a mirthful tear from her eye. As you wish, Odin said, and cancelled his change and Harry's glamour. I just didn't want them to forget this old man still had some tricks up his sleeve. Loki really enjoyed this milder side of Odin, and wondered where he had been all these years. Then he noticed the bottle of Odin's brew. What are you drinking, father? He asked. Nobody has told you? Odin asked. When Loki shook his head, Odin smiled, and poured him a small glass. Harry's own creation. He looked at Harry, when he made to object. With some help from his friends. Loki took the offered drink and took a sip. He sat back and looked at the drink. You made this? He did, Natasha said. Imagine if you weren't in a war with him, he'd have so many things to teach you. He might even take you on as an apprentice. Then she looked at Harry. Butterbeer, please. As Odin chuckled and Loki looked at her with a thoughtful look, Harry made a pitcher and poured her a glass. There you go, love, he said. It had been the first time he had used that descriptor. Harry, are you sure you're not ready yet? Frigga asked. You just seem so happy together, she said as she poured herself some butterbeer. Every time you ask, I'll add another month before asking, Harry warned. You'll never be married then. Odin laughed again. Oh, hush you. Frigga swatted at Odin's arm good-naturedly. The evening continued with jokes and happiness. Thor joined them half-drunk with a bottle of half-century fire whiskey he had brought from another table, but took it more slowly with a look from his mother. He even had some butterbeer in between. When they retired for the evening, Harry was shown to the royal wing. Apparently there had been a room prepared for him there. This time he remembered the privacy wards. The next day they were gathered in the family's communal living room, and Odin asked him how the potion worked. You take a drop of blood from the parents and add it into the potion. It will then use that blood and alter Loki to be of your own blood. There was another ritual, where you'd have to give up some of your actual flesh, like a finger, but that would affect his physical appearance as well. It fell out of use long ago. As it is, you want him to pass part of his own inheritance and yours onto his progeny, correct? That is right, Odin said, looking at Loki. I love him as he is, but want him to be mine as well. Okay, usually those that give the blood say something of import, something to remember the occasion by. Harry took out a piece of paper and a dictation quill. This will record it for posterity. He then took a special enchanted dagger out and handed it hilt first to Odin. This dagger will allow only one drop to escape before healing the cut. Then he took a step back and stood with Thor. When the potion is complete, you hand it to Loki and he will say his piece before drinking the potion. There will be slight pain as your blood changes, but it is over quickly. Then he looked up. Fox. When the phoenix appeared, Harry asked him to go to Odin's shoulder. It was a special moment after all. Let the record show a phoenix presided and approved. It would add to the credibility of the event for the future. Odin took the dagger in his one hand. The potion was on a podium between him, Frigga, and Loki. With our family here and a phoenix in attendance, let your blood become ours. With my blood I make you mine, Odin intoned. He sliced open his finger over the potion, and the drop fell in. He handed the dagger to Frigga. She took it and looked at Loki. I love you, my son, and with this act I claim you forever. With my blood I make you mine. She finished with Odin's words. She cut her finger and added her own blood. The dark red potion roiled for a second before it became crystal clear. Loki looked at Harry, who nodded. It was supposed to do that. He took the potion in his hand. May your sacrifice and trust in me always be rewarded with the honor I bring to our family. By your blood I am yours. He took the potion to his lips and downed it. It's not so bad, act. He stopped as he clutched his head and then his stomach before he went down on one knee. For a minute he panted on the floor, before the magic ran its course. Then he breathed a sigh of relief and got back up. I am yours, he said. So mote it be, Harry intoned. Thor following after him, and then both Odin and Frigga. The phoenix sang a song of acceptance and love. It was so beautiful it drove Frigga to tears as she rushed forward and hugged Loki. My son! Odin put a hand on Loki's shoulder. My son. And that was it. Harry stopped the quill and cast a spell to make the words look like the most beautiful calligraphy he could imagine and handed it to Loki. This is your proof. You may hold it forever or burn it, but it will never change who you are. I don't think you needed it, but I know you wanted it. Welcome to the family, he said, and shook Loki's hand. If you burn that, I will disown you on the spot, Frigga said instantly. Wow, not even 5 seconds and she's already threatening to disown you. That must be some kind of record. Thor said as he clapped his brother on the shoulder. I never said that. I intend to frame it. It was Harry's stupid remark. Loki pouted. He looked at the document. This was really nice of you though, and the script is beautifully done. I will never tire of seeing it. Thor then looked thoughtful. So when are we having a ceremony for Harry? He asked. No offense, Thor, but I had hoped to pass my parents' blood on to my children, Harry said apologetically. We shall take no offense to that. You honor their memory well, Odin said with a smile. And I would expect nothing less from you, but that does not mean that they will not be my grandchildren, and I will love them either way. Even if our gifts of long life do not pass on to our children, Harry asked. He was well aware of the laws and the way the Aesir sometimes look down on mortals. Even then, but we will try to assure them a long life anyway. Perhaps you can find more of the serum that ascended your beloved, Odin asked. Perhaps, but I will offer it to them if I do find it. I will not force it upon them, Harry said sternly. Of course, Odin said understandingly. Then, you may not be adopted by blood, but you are my son. He looked at his wife and she nodded. As my son, you will receive the power of the Aesir, and the blessings of Asgard. He reached forward and placed a hand on Harry's shoulder. Do you accept the power and responsibility of your title? He asked. I do, Harry said. He did not want more power, but he would take the responsibility and he would care for his people as he would have anyway. Odin smiled at him and Harry felt something surge into him. So mote it be, Odin said. So mote it be. Frigga, Thor and Loki intoned. Harry did not know what had changed, but he felt different. Why do I feel different? He asked. It was merely a blessing of sorts. Asgard takes care of her people. Odin smiled again. Their time on Asgard was soon at an end. Harry and Natasha said their goodbyes and left for their home. When they were gone, Odin said, I probably should have warned him of his enhanced strength and endurance. He then smiled and winked at Loki again. I believe that's 2 for me, he chuckled. Loki looked gobsmacked. Odin had certainly changed a lot since he met Harry. You are a worthy adversary, but I think you have met your match in him, he said before laughing. Why do you say so, Loki? Frigga asked. Have you heard the rumor of your youngest son's divine attribute? Loki asked, still trying to stop his laughter. We have not. What has our Harry been supposedly attributed with? Odin asked, eager to hear of his latest achievement. Harry is being hailed as the god of magic and sex, Loki burst out laughing again, and you have just given him more stamina. Oh dear, Frigga said, shocked. Indeed, Odin said worriedly.